Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we got plenty of things we're going to be talking about, but our first main topic is going to be a new rule that has recently popped up at North American Regional Championship events. We're going to also be taking a look at a ton of new cards, a ton of really good new cards that were recently revealed at the Champions League Osaka, which took place a couple of weekends ago. We are, of course, going to have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. And we're going to wrap up this week by talking about the results from that Champions League Osaka a couple weekends ago. The decks that did well may surprise you. And then, of course, we're going to throw it over to our bonus episode exclusive to our YouTube members and Spotify subscribers. So if you want to hear a little bit of extra content from us every single week, be sure to become a supporter on Spotify or here on YouTube, wherever you get the podcast. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined here as always by my friend and co-host Azul GG. Azul, how we doing, buddy? How was your Christmas? How's your holidays been? I know we missed last week's episode due to all the holiday stuff going on, but how you been, buddy?
Doing good. Well, mostly good. Dude, I was sick and I just got over the sickness like this last weekend. If you like fully over it. And then even as we're
Ye-
recording this, I did not feel great waking up. Uh like I plan to go for my run this morning and stuff and get back to like working out starting this week. But I woke up this morning and I did not feel great for like the
Dude,
first hour or so. But yeah, I was sick for like over a week. Like once I got back from your place where we did some recording for the secondary channel. And I feel like I'm just getting over it over this weekend, over on Sunday.
I can say this
Um
now confidently as the father of a toddler, but you have the immune system of a toddler.
yeah. I don't dude, yeah, I don't know. I get sick. I don't know, I felt like maybe is it last season or the season before? I got sick like once, I think, during all my traveling. No, it wasn't last season. It had to be the season before last.
23.
Yeah. So I don't know what it is, but the thing is, it's not even so much getting sick, it's how long I'm sick for. It's just like takes forever for me to like get unsick. Like I don't even know what it is. But I'm just sick for so long.
You drink orange
Um,
juice, get some vitamin C.
I don't know, I had some I don't know, that stuff doesn't matter as much as people think it does, but
Oh,
uh
okay.
it's all like ahead of time. You have to like that stuff has to be in your system before you get sick, I'm pretty sure. Like that drinking a bunch of orange juice after you're sick doesn't do as much as like
Chicken
drinking a
noodle
bunch of orange
soup.
juice. That stuff I guarantee does has nothing to do with getting better. That is 100% Campbell's invented chicken noodle soup making a difference.
I don't
Has
know,
been soup
bro.
when you're
Every time
sick.
I'm sick, though, I do crack open a can of chicken noodle soup, and it's
They
nice and
got you,
comforting
bro.
and
They got
warm.
you.
I don't know,
Campbell's has
dude.
got you. You're in Campbell's pocket for the rest of
Well,
your life.
who's sick?
I also don't like soup,
Who's sick?
so I'm not. Well, hopefully I don't. I kind of felt sick this morning. Like yesterday, I was like, all right, I'm feeling good. I was gonna stream yesterday, but I had a lot of errands to do, meal prepping,
How about
stuff
this?
like that. So,
After we're done today, go to the store, get yourself a can of chicken noodle soup, heat it up,
dude,
and
are you
we'll report back.
sponsored by Campbell's, bro?
No free
Yeah,
advertising.
I don't actually hate soup. I just don't really. It's just like if I'm ever gonna get some food, if I'm ever gonna have food, it's just not gonna ever be soup. The only time I have soup is if someone is like, "Yo, do you want some soup?" They don't have anything else to offer me. I'm like, "All right, sure, I'll have some soup."
Next time you come here, I'll make sure we have soup night.
All right, good. Maybe that'll prevent me from getting sick when I get back. We have the soup.
True. Get it in your immune system right
Yeah,
away.
yes, that's the big difference maker there. But I did watch. We did miss last week, but I watched Champions League Osaka, all of it. Was able to stay up for all of it. I think I almost tapped out in day two. But I think I did stay up and watch the whole thing in the end. So it was up. I was up to like 3 or 4 a.m. my time. So definitely gonna try and do that moving forward with the rest of them as well. But that was fun to watch for sure. The finals was crazy. I think actually Rahul did like a review of the finals. Dude, one thing YouTube VODs, after you stream for more than 12 hours on YouTube, it's cuts off your VOD. So the final and now that I'm thinking about it, I forgot to do it. I have like the recording on my desktop on my computer. I was gonna post it on my YouTube channel, but like the finals is just not on my YouTube channel because it like cuts it off at 12 hours.
Oh, that's weird. I
Um
didn't know YouTube did that. Well, it's a good thing you
I,
were recording.
yeah, I'm always recording. I always have a recording of my VODs. It makes it easier to edit them. But yeah, go check out Rahul's review of the match. The finals was probably one of maybe the craziest game of Pokemon I've ever watched. Just the way it played out, you just got to go watch it. You just got to go watch it. Probably the craziest game of Pokemon I've ever watched for just like what the players were doing and then how it all ended. Like, yeah, I can't think of a crazier match that I've ever watched overall because it's different than just like big plays happening and the players playing well. It's so much more than that. So I would definitely recommend going and watching that finals. Probably the craziest game of Pokemon I've ever watched. So,
Yeah, I have not actually watched it. I saw the results and I saw people talking about the final match being crazy, but not to the level that you're talking about it right now. So
yeah,
I guess I need to go check it out.
I think it's literally the craziest game of Pokemon I've ever watched. I can't think of a crazier game, so I should definitely post it up on my YouTube channel. I didn't do it, but um, yeah. So yeah, just doing content here and there over the last couple weeks. Being sick, sometimes I'm not streaming when I want to be, but um, getting through it. But how were your holiday ship? How were your last couple weeks?
Yeah, it was good. We went to my in-laws' house for a few days, spent a couple days there before Christmas. We came back home and had Christmas at home, which was fun. And then went down and enjoyed some time with my parents and my side of the family at their beach house for the last few days. We actually just got back yesterday. Um, and today, when we're recording this, is New Year's Eve, so we got the new year on the horizon and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been fun. I spend a lot of time with my family. I'm really close with my family, so it's always nice to get together. We watched a bunch of football over the weekends, college football and professional football. Clemson did unfortunately get absolutely smoked by Texas. It ended up being a little bit closer than maybe than any of the other what's it called? The other playoff games for college football. I don't know if I assume you probably didn't watch any of it, but for anyone else who's listening who has been following it, but it was definitely a bit of a bummer that we couldn't put up a little bit better of a fight. We did get it close, but our defense kind of let us down on a really big play at the end of the game. And yeah, it's been good, been good. Christmas is a lot of fun when you have kids, like, and it's been a lot of fun to see Samuel because, like, we got him stuff that we were excited about, but then all of our family gets him stuff that they're really excited about as well, and just seeing him like really enjoy kind of the new things and also giving us an excuse to go through his playroom and get rid of a bunch of stuff that he does not play with that much and store it away or donate it and stuff like that as well. Get some cleaning going on, but yeah, it's been good. It's a good Christmas overall for us for sure.
See, speaking of, well, you made me think of this. Like, dude, I haven't been excited. I think I was probably excited last time this came up too. But like the card reveals live during the Champions League, like I get excited for that when they're about to release the card. Like I was super disappointed day one. I assumed there was gonna be card reveals, and then there
And they
wasn't.
weren't,
So
yeah.
I was like, oh man, what? And they showed us like the pack art, and then like some other like promos for like future events are having like expanded promos, stuff like that. Um, then day two came around, super exciting. Um, but it does make me dread the future a little bit because they're going to get these cards in like 3 weeks, and we're not going to get them for 2 months after that. So
We
that
don't even
sucks.
have Badoo.
Yeah, we don't have Badoo. They're going to get the cards, I think. No, we'll get Badoo, and then next week they'll get the battle partner cards. We'll get Badoo next week. They get battle partners, and then we don't get battle partners for 2 months. Man, that's just like I don't know. Ooh, just like a lot, man. It's like I don't know. It just feels pretty bad. Um, but with that as well, it would just nice to be, and I guess it doesn't make sense. I guess like a step for this, and I've brought this up before in the past, but it would be cool to have card reveals happen in English from content creators. I bring this up all the time. They do. I don't know if they still do it in Hearthstone, but they used to do it in Hearthstone, where like content creators would like imagine Andrew Mahone revealing one of the new cards on live on stream. Like that'd be so sick, right?
Yeah, or even
Um,
at minimum, us being able to do them in the
at
same way
regionals,
that Pokemon
yeah,
TPC does them at their Champions League events. Like if we could reveal them at regionals or internationals
ICs.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, even that would even be sick, right? That'd be really cool as well. Or like when you guys do the pre-IC shows as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, the
That'd be a
pre-show.
good. That'd be a good time to hype it up maybe and be like, we'll have these reveals at the official tournament, like do them before Top Cut or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be cool to see more of that on the English side of it. But of course, they would have to kind of first sync up or get pretty close to similar release dates. Um, First that'd be like the first step. But I don't know. You talking about like people being excited about things made me think of that. I was gonna bring that up and be like, I was excited for that, but it does kind of make me dread the future a little bit where we're entering the honestly, this is the worst time of the year. And I did bring this up on my stream as well. This really only affects competitive Pokemon players. Like the release schedule being
Yeah.
so desynced really only affect it doesn't affect collectors or even like the more casual players probably just don't understand the impact of it or like don't realize it because they just don't keep up with it on the same level.
So it is a
But like
super small
it
percentage.
is.
Yeah.
But it's truly an awful experience, I think. I think it is truly miserable to be a pretty competitive player. Maybe not super competitive because I feel like maybe some of the more maybe I'm in a unique situation because I'm a content creator. I'm sure um other content creators like Mahone or LDF probably feel pretty similarly the way I do about this. And people who are maybe a little bit less like the super competitive players probably don't care. I feel like you know, I don't know, like your Isaiah Bradners and stuff. They're just focused on, winning with the cards they have available to them immediately. So being like a content creator probably adds to that to me personally. But I feel like the people who just like kind of more enjoy Pokemon but are like competitive, just enjoy playing the game a lot. It does kind of suck to see Japan getting these cards so far ahead of us and like knowing they exist. And then we have to like wait. And we're like stuck in this like also like effective 4 or 5 month format as well, which kind of sucks. Um, so yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it definitely is like a pretty small subsection. I kind of had that realization when I was talking about it. I think during the Champions League streams, like it really is only like the competitive players who this actually affects, like the people who play the game every single day or multiple times a week. Um, and it's just like we're playing the same format super long. We know these other new cards exist, and it's like super desynced. It kind of sucks, but yeah, we can go and jump to our first thing to talk about here, which is the world's decks have been fully revealed. And Chip mentioned to me before we started recording that he predicted what decks they would go ahead and print here. And
I don't remember if I think I said it on the podcast at some point that I thought
yeah,
that
you
this
might
would be
have.
the 4 decks that they chose. I was just most it was actually funny because, like, we were talking about, "Oh, yeah, we should just mention the world's decks coming out."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, yeah, I, like, perfectly predicted it," and Azul went, "Congratulations," and, like, he did not care. He did not care, does not care at all. That's fine.
um,
Anyway, but here's the 4 decks, and for those who don't know, every single year, TPCI releases this product, and they just take 4 decks from the World Championships and release them with, like, a unique card back. You can see here it's got, like, a Honolulu card back with the different Pokemon that were featured for some of the things that were happening at the event. It's like just a commemorative way to go back and replay with these cards. The cards also will have the players' signatures on the front of them traditionally as well. So that's a pretty cool added little feature. But yeah, very fun product. I pick these up every single year. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that do as well. And yeah, it's just a nice, cheap way to be able to go back and revisit a past format. Now, are you gonna wanna revisit this format with these 4 decks? It'll be okay, I guess. It'll be okay.
and also it is a little bit weird. I think it's like one of the things about the structure for the worlds format that we have is I feel like this format was actually pretty underdeveloped overall. There was like a massive fear of Reggie Drago, and I feel like a lot of players hadn't quite figured out what are the best ways to beat Reggie Drago yet, or what is like worth of decks that I know that beat Reggie Drago, what is worth risking playing instead of just playing Reggie Drago. I
Sure,
think we saw stuff like kind of evolve a little bit past that going to like Baltimore, like Lugia probably should have been more successful at the World Championships. Maybe not. Maybe Iron Thorns was a little bit too prevalent overall, but I feel like Lugia probably should have been a little bit more successful. I mean, we did have Rahul making ninth place. I think was the highest place in Lugia. There was none in top eight. I don't
yes.
want to say, but
Yeah,
I
he
think like
got top cut
overall,
and lost in ASIM.
yeah, I think, but overall, like its placings in like the top 16, top 32 was pretty mid. I think its overall play rate was pretty low as well, if I remember correctly. I mean, Drago is 24% of the meta,
Yeah.
so like,
I mean, we
what else?
did
There's
still
no
see
room for.
some decks that I think on paper had, like, good Drago matchups rise to the top, even in the Masters
Turbo
division,
Moon,
right? Like, I mean,
Thorns,
yeah, Jesse's, Miraidon deck, he beat, like, every single Drago he played, I
yeah,
think.
that's true.
Is Seinosuke's 2nd place, Roaring Moon deck, um, maybe people weren't super tested in the matchup. I think like looking at it now, most Regidrago players would feel pretty fine going into Roaring Moon, but it is definitely like still probably a pretty scary. Any of those like beat sticks, super fast decks like the Raging Bolts, the Miraidons, the Roaring Moons. Like I don't think Regidrago necessarily loves going up against any of them. You can still beat them, but they're like, you know, it's hard
Feels
to
bad. Yeah,
stabilize.
the matchups are still pretty close, but it just like feels bad to go
Yeah.
against for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're not too wrong. But yeah, Drago was still like 24% of the meta or whatever it was, which is really
So the
crazy.
4 decks they chose to print, we've got the Juniors World Champion Sakuya Ota with the Ancient Toolbox for the deck name. Fernando Cifuentes, the Masters World Champion with Crushing Thorn, the Iron Thorns. I think that's a pretty solid deck name. Ancient Toolbox is like kind of whatever, you know.
Yeah,
Crushing Thorn's a pretty good deck name. We've got Jesse Parker's top 4 Miraidon deck, nicknamed the Dawn. A pretty good one, a pretty good
that's a good
one.
one.
And then Evan Pavelski's first place world champion seniors division deck called Regidrago V Star. Come on, Evan. We couldn't think of a little something else.
Well, the thing is,
Regidrago V Star.
he maybe did, but they didn't use any of them. When I was going into top 4 of Worlds, they had me, like, write down, like, 4 deck names or something, but they weren't guaranteed to use any of them. So, like, if I had, like, beat Vance and then theoretically had my deck printed at Worlds, they could have just called it Mew VMAX if they didn't like any of my
What were some of
name
your deck
choices.
names? Do you remember?
I don't even remember what they were. They weren't great. They were, like, okay because I had to come up with them in the moment. Like, I literally uh one into top. I think they had everyone who made top 8 or potentially could like even Cyrus I think filled out one of the sheets as well, and Cyrus ended up getting 9. So yeah, if you were in top 8 or potentially in top 8, they had you fill out one of the sheets. So yeah, it was just very in the
Yeah.
moment, real quick.
That's something I've talked about this before. It's something that's lacking in the Pokemon TCG right now is creative deck names. Everyone
Yeah.
just calls their deck it's Regidrago V Star, you know. And what happened to like the truth and stuff like that, you know?
Well, I think the truth is a little bit more out there, but I feel like there was more um well, the thing I don't know, I just feel like the game is so much more global, it just makes more sense. Like the game is so much bigger now. Like if someone calls a deck by a certain name, it's so hard for it to catch on as well. Because like
Mm.
sometimes people will come into my chat and be like, what do you think about Timmy Bob Box? And I'm like, bro, I don't know what does that mean. So like sometimes people will use like a weird nickname for a deck, and I'll be like, I don't know what deck you're talking about. So I'll have to have them clarify. "Oh, I'm talking about Archaludon Dialga. It's like, oh, okay. Well, why didn't you just say that? It's like, so I think because how much bigger the game is, it's really hard. If nicknames out there for decks exist, it's really hard for them to catch on. Is probably part of it as well because of how much bigger the game has gotten.
It's probably fair,
Uh,
probably fair.
yeah, and
I
I think
just it's
it makes it
just
simpler. It is cooler.
it is cooler.
I think we have to rely on the world's decks to kind of carry that. So we need Evan to come up with something more creative than Regidrago V Star. But yeah, I think Jesse and Fernando did decent with theirs for sure. Yeah, Jesse had a good one, and that Crushing Thorns is I don't know what else
Crush
you could go with. Iron Hammer.
yeah.
Okay.
Flipping thorns. He played catchers, right?
Yeah, you could have got Mimi with it too, and that would have been good.
Flipping
I
thorns.
don't think they would have. Well, yeah, specifically that one. I don't think they would have gone with,
They
but
might not have gone for that one, yeah.
um,
I remember I had a friend make top 4 at Worlds one year. Blaine Hill got top 4 with Green Zard, and they were having him fill it out. And I was kind of I was with him when he was like trying to think of deck names on the spot, and one of them was literally just Blaine's Charizard, which is like a callback, obviously, to the original games and like one of the original like Gym Heroes sets. There's the Blaine's Charizard card, right?
yeah,
But his deck didn't get printed, unfortunately, because
we're lucky. That would have been an okay one for sure.
yeah.
That'd been a good one.
All right. Well,
But
we do have before our kind of first big main topic. We did have a few things we want to talk about. You know, this is the holiday season. Christmas just finished up. We got the new year coming up. We thought it might be kind of fun to do a Pokemon wish list, a Christmas list, a wish list. These are the things that we are hoping to see in the new year in 2025. Hopefully, very, very soon. Things that we did not get by the end of 2024 that I think we would have all hoped at the start of 2024 we would have had at this point in 2024, right?
yeah, and I mean the first one here is something we weren't going to get at the beginning of the season, but I mean it's been I don't know how many months has it been? 4 or 5?
July probably is when yeah, this came out June 27th is when this article was posted about World Championships.
Yeah. So we got the season update and one piece of information. I maybe the only thing that they said they weren't giving to us, but they would be giving to us soon, was this championship points season rewards program,
Mhm.
which is supposed to be like tied to championship points thresholds throughout the season, where you'll be able to earn rewards for earning championship points that isn't directly just tied to earning your world's invite, which is something you bring up all the time, which is just like, just give us something else to play for that's not earning your world's invite. And this kind of is it. And this could be big, but we don't know what it is. So we don't know how big it is. They still haven't told us.
Yeah, I think they announced this alongside the update to championship invitations that we're moving away from the championship point threshold. In the past, you need to get 500, 600 points, whatever it was, depending on where you lived, what age division you're in, to now there's only a set number of invitations based on where you live and what division you play in. So this is like kind of a way to give players something to continue to play for once they're kind of outside that top 125 mark, which is a good thing, but now it's 2025 and we don't know what it is still.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, we still have no clue what it is. I mean, it feels like this. I don't know, and I think a big thing for it as well is like this would be potentially a really good incentive for people go to local tournaments, even if they're not trying to be as competitive this season, or like not even trying to play for the world's invite. Like it's like, oh, if I get to 200 championship points, um, I get. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what the prizes are. So hopefully they're good enough to like incentivize people as well. If it's just like some exclusive stamped cards would be good.
Yeah,
That's what
like
we used to have
the
in the
past.
past.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can bring up the what was it?
I'll
What
find
what
'em.
was it even called back then?
Player
Um,
reward promos.
yeah, player reward. So if you I think it was like the same thing if you were in like the top. Oh no, that's when I think it was like if you and maybe it's tied to play points, or I think it was if you're in the top 200 player. I don't know. It
Dude,
was something. What?
why are these so expensive
Oh
now?
my gosh. I think I have some of those.
So these this picture doesn't do it justice, but these have like the crosshatch foil. Holy cow, why are these
Oh
so
my
expensive?
god.
Okay, well, there are
And
0 sales, 0
yeah,
sales.
yeah.
That is
People holding
crazy.
out. Nah, they're not worth that much for sure.
No way, right?
Yeah.
So for
So,
the I guess for those listeners, we're looking at the hypnotoxic laser player reward promo card. It's got the play logo right here, and this would normally be like a crosshatched stamped version of the card. The cheapest one on TCG Player is $80 and it's damaged. The
yeah.
cheapest moderately played is 225, lightly played 250, and near mint they want $750. These are just these are made up prices. This happens a lot with like really
Yeah.
obscure cards. People are just like, well, there's not that much sales data. We're just going to put a stupid big number on them and maybe someone will come along and bite eventually. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, it's
But
like one of those things where, like, they're comfortable keeping it for forever technically and just, like, letting it gain value theoretically, so, like, if someone wants to buy it for 200 bucks, sure, I'll sell it, but otherwise, I'm fine keeping it usually. It's like the
so I would say that's not like quite a real price, but these are have been pretty much always kind of expensive. But these were things that were sent out to the top X earners of championship points. I think it was for like the
that's what I think. Maybe it's play
2013
points.
season, something like that. 2013,
Might have
2014.
might have been play points. I don't really remember. I don't even remember when they started doing these either. Um,
There's like the Azelf as well was one, right?
Never really kept too up to date with it. Yeah, there's Azov on the right side, I think, the league pro. Oh no, that was a
Yes.
league. It was a league promo one. No, this was different though. This you just got for going to league. Like there was a Claydol, Azov, and Uxie. Dude, those came out literally at the end when they were about to rotate. Because like they gave us Claydol and Uxie as league promos like or it was like 4 months before they rotated, and
I
those
know
are like
there's a
big
call energy
cards
one
back
as
then.
well. Yeah,
Yeah,
like this.
yeah. I
But
think
stuff like
I
that
don't
would
remember
be
what they
really
started with.
cool.
Yeah,
We
that would
get
be.
like a
Would that be
stamped
enough?
version.
That seems like a decent. I think that would probably be a reasonable incentive for people to see. I
Well,
don't
I
really
think
know. Like, it wouldn't incentivize me to go, but like,
sure.
I'm not the like the average player, so I can't really. I don't know. It seems like those are kind of things that like the general player base seems to enjoy. So
Well, I mean, we have the prize packs right now, right? So that
true.
kind
So
of
it'd have to be.
takes the place of those. I think it would have to be something much more exclusive that never got printed in the prize packs, and it probably would need to be some sort of stamped or alternate foil or alternate artwork version of like a Pokemon, like a like a alternate Charizard EX artwork or something like that, you know?
I don't think they're ever gonna. They can't do that though. Or
Sure
they
they
could
can.
stay.
Why can't they?
Well, I don't think they can do a different, like, artwork.
Why
I
not?
think
They do it for tins and stuff all the time.
oh, that's true with the promo. No, but those still come out in Japan and at some to some
But
extent,
they usually
right?
come out in America first.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
They usually like the Raging Bolt promo and those type of things, like, they usually come out in America first, and then
Oh.
they're thrown in like, a lot of those cards are in Terastal Festival in Japan. Those, like, alternate 10
Mm.
promos and stuff like that. They're, like, thrown into their collector sets as, like, additional alternate artworks and things like that.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know
The
that.
same is true
Okay.
for the pre-release promos. The pre-release promos are
But
all
see,
unique to the US first, or to or, like, the western part of the world first, and then come out in Japan later.
I doubt it's one of the situations where it's like my guess would be that the artwork still exists first in Japan, would be my assumption there. And then it's just like based on how we release stuff. And see, that's like proof that because like sometimes I'll like bring up it'd be nice to be able to like get the release schedule synced up and people are like, I don't know, bro. They're like printing stuff. It's like if we're getting artwork, if we can print artworks before them, then it's obvious that we can do it with like major sets and release them at the same time. Like that's
Yeah.
not one of the reasons that it's not happening. But people like bring that up as an excuse why we don't have like synced up release schedules. It's like I don't know the printing process of getting cards. It's like no, we're literally printing artworks before them sometimes. But I would imagine like it's not like it's still like is planning to be released in Japan, and it's like then we're just choosing to release it sooner here from DPCI. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean any kind of thing like that seems decent. But that is true though. The prize packs kind of already exist, so maybe that kind of already fills that niche as like a incentivized reward. So maybe it has to be something else, but we don't know because they just haven't told us what it is. And I assume that it's like they say they're going to tie it to championship point threshold. So if you get 50 championship points, if you get 50 championship points, that's going to be one thing. But then if you can get up to like 200 or more potentially, that would be give you more. But we just don't know what any of those thresholds will give you. So we still don't know, but hopefully soon, because we're about to be, or are we already not like halfway through the season at this point? Where are we at with?
We're, yeah, getting close, right? Like,
I mean, EUIC isn't going to be the
the last tournament of the year is NAIC, which happens the 2nd week of June. So, I mean, we're getting like, I guess the halfway point of the season is probably right around like February, March, something like that.
yeah, so we're getting close to it. So it'd be nice to have known that before the halfway point, and we're coming up on it. So hopefully, going into this year, they figure that out and let us know.
The next thing on the wish list is for all the regional championships to be announced, because there are still some question marks of regional championships to be released.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the only two we are missing at this point is the final uh American regional and then the final Australian regional. But I mean, we're going into the new year. Once again, we're like coming up on halfway through the season and we still don't know and I don't remember the exact rumored pre announcement of North American regionals. It seems like basically every regional was leaked. I'm pretty sure one of the lists has basically been 100% accurate so far. I forget who made that initial list, but I don't remember what that ninth city was, but we are missing one. They did announce Atlanta, or they don't even really announce them. They just kind of shadow drop them on the regional
True.
list. Like for anyone who doesn't know, if you just Google Pokemon Regionals 2025, the first thing that pops up, if you click that, that'll list all the major tournaments, all the major regionals and special events happening this season. And they kind of just like shadow drop new regionals on there from time to time. I don't think there's any missing for Europe. Like I'm pretty sure Europe's have all been announced. I'm pretty sure. Same thing with Latin America. I'm not aware, but we do know there is one missing for North America. It's actually listed as North America on here as well. They sometimes say North America, sometimes they say US slash Canada. But we are missing one for
Yeah.
North America, and then we are also missing one for Australia. I'm pretty sure those are both confirmed missing. The American one is for sure, and I'm pretty sure the Australian one is confirmed that there will be a third Australian.
I don't remember where it was said that there would be a third Australian one, but, like, I know, for
I think
example,
ESL
at,
included it.
regionals, we always, one of the things we show every single time is the, roadmap of, like, the list of North American tournaments, and for the last several tournaments, there's, like, been a couple of spots that say "to be announced" on them, so it's like
Yeah, there's one
they
missing.
there are ones that will be announced at some
Yeah,
point. Well, they won't even be announced, they'll be
shadow dropped.
shadow dropped.
That'll just be dropped in on there. Also, for anyone, I think I just saw this tweet earlier. I think Vancouver registration is going up later this week or next week. For anyone who's interested, I just saw that on
That one probably won't.
Twitter before I
That one
started.
always is a little bit smaller.
You never know.
You do never know.
You never know. Anyone who plans to go, now you know.
Next one on our wish list is for X2 to make cut to be just a set in stone rule.
Yeah, and that's one's will like X2 not making cut probably will never happen ever again because of the change they made. But just in case, it would still be nice. This is something that I've been harping on. It would just
This
be nice if
list
that could
is
be in the rules.
this list, our wish list really should have just been us rehashing all of our favorite rants from the past year.
Yeah, but yeah, we can close that one with just saying that it should still exist as a rule in the like the tournament structure rules. It'll probably not happen where X2 doesn't make cut because of the change they made, where X2-1 now makes day two because the tie rate has gone up uh by a lot to the point where X2 should never miss cut,
Yeah.
but still.
Next one is for us to be able to report matches digitally. So whenever you complete a round at a regional championships, instead of having to fill out a match slip, take it up to a table, you can just pull out your phone, which basically everyone has to be able to report your match. And if you don't have one, you can raise your hand, have a judge come over to help you report.
Yeah, or there could be like a reporting station at the hive still or
There's a
something.
pretty good chance that one of the two players will have the ability to report, right?
Yeah, and I guess you could make it so I don't know if for anyone who plays in limitless tournaments, which is like the online tournaments that people playing for the Pokemon trading card game. Basically, the system that works there is there's a loss and a win button you can click, and after you click it, your opponent gets 15 seconds to potentially dispute that report.
Yeah.
Um,
Should probably
if
be a
they
little
don't,
bit
you
longer,
just yeah,
but
definitely pretty
60
specific.
seconds, something like that.
Yeah, and then if something does get misclicked, and you could still, fix it before the next round starts or after the next round, like they currently do when something gets misreported. So, um, yeah, wouldn't be a big deal. If anything, it would free up a lot of staff to do other stuff to help the tournament run smoother in other areas, probably.
Mhm.
And like you said, just call over a judge if you don't have service or don't have a phone, although pretty much everyone has a phone. But if you don't have service, would be the big one. And there probably could be a reporting station up at the hive, so you can just go up there and report your match with your opponent or something like that. But I think it would help the smoothness of the tournament move along. And literally, from what I understand, basically every other card game reports their matches on their phone at this point, like One Piece does and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure. And then um over in Asia, all the tournaments that happen in Asia, they all report on their phone. Like over in Japan, over in China, they all report their matches on their phone. So we're just like behind for no reason, basically, at this point, and it's kind of annoying.
Next one up is a public ban list. We've talked about this a few times, especially around any sort of like cheating allegations, anything that happens in the game where someone is caught by doing something on video or whatever it is, stacking their deck or palming cards. There's a big one at Worlds this year where the guy literally, like, very blatantly is palming cards from his discard pile. Um,
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
but yeah, a public ban list because right now it's not public. You don't get to see or know who is not able to participate in Pokemon. You don't get to see the repercussions of people's actions, right?
Yeah, and the ban list is effectively public. Like someone gets banned, basically everyone hears about it, and I would say a lot of the general community probably doesn't know. But if you're like if you're just part of like some kind of more serious Pokemon group or people who are like have been around for a while, like you'll know if someone is banned. Like you'll just know someone will figure it out. Someone will get told about it. Yeah, the ban list is technically private, and if you have access to it, you're not supposed to share that information. And but the word just kind of gets around. So it just feels like at this point it should just be public. And I think for just like transparency's sake, it should just be public as well. Like it feels like there's no real reason to have it private for the main reason that it is effectively public. It feels like everyone knows when someone gets banned because yeah. um, so and yeah, so there's basically no reason for it to be private. It would just be a good transparency thing, I think, for the community. But we'll see if that ever happens. I think pretty much every other game has their ban list public or something like that. So I even see games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic sometimes make statements on bans, which I guess we have seen the
One
littlest
time
bit one time. Yeah, one time.
in
Um,
2023.
yeah, the announcements of announcements has not led to many announcements, or the announcements of statements has not led to many statements post that announcement from Pokemon.
Yeah.
I guess technically it is technically they put it out there that they might do that. Um and I guess the last thing on the list that we touched on, I guess, a little bit here is just like synced release dates. But we just kind of touched on that, but like it really only affects, feels like, that competitive player base, content creators, people like me. I think feel it especially, but it does feel bad to have these awkward long formats that Japan never has. Like Japan doesn't ever have, I feel like, this 4 or 5 month period of an effective uh one single format. Um,
Yeah, and it's happened now 3 years in a row for us.
yeah, what was it like before? That's what I want. That's what I'm actually like. I just don't remember what it was like before these last 3 years, because we had Lugia format into Guardy format into Drago format, right? No, it was pre. Yeah, no, it was Lugia into
Yeah, it was the broken Lugia format, and then we had rotation, and then,
Guardy came out then, but
Guardy
then what?
came out, and then Paldean, then Chien-Pao came out, then Charizard EX came out, and then there was a while where it was Charizard, I think, was the big deck, right? From, like,
Yeah,
December onwards last year, like, when you won San Antonio last year with with Charizard,
yeah. I guess it was just
uh
like Charizard and Tina for a really long time,
yeah,
right?
and Tina, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, the game's still not enjoyable, but it's just like it doesn't really make a ton of sense. Um,
It would just be better if there
overall.
was more turnover.
Yeah, it'd be better if there's more turnover and it was synced closer with Japan. It doesn't have to be exactly same weekend. I think I was talking about it during Champions League. Jake Gearhart had some thoughts on it, especially based on like how we had it pretty close with Obsidian Flames and Paradox Rift. Like our pre-releases for one of the sets started before they got the cards over in Japan. So if our pre-releases start the week of their release or something like that, that would be perfect. Like
Yeah, sure.
they get the cards in Japan. Our pre-releases start that weekend, and then we get the cards. Maybe you cut down pre-release weekends to 2 weeks, or keep it at
Well,
3 weeks. But the
no,
official set
pre-release is
releases.
2 weeks. Pre-release is 2 weeks right now.
Oh, it is 2 weeks. I
Yeah, it
thought
is
it's
2
2 weeks
weeks.
pre-releases. Okay, so
But
yeah, so
so
like
so here's the deal though, if you do that, then we still don't get the cards
they're
legal
still not.
for a
Yeah,
month or 4
yeah.
weeks after them.
But I think getting the cards in general is like the biggest hurdle. But yeah, I do agree with that. That does still, yeah, they're still not legal for us. I don't. Maybe it, but for one of them, I think our pre-releases. That's what Gearhart said. Is our pre-releases started a week before they got the cards. So
I
I
feel like I
like.
remember that.
What if we got the? What if our pre-releases just started 2 weeks before they got the cards? Like it just like, yeah, synced it up sooner, so like our cards are like legal. Because like that's one of the things that I was like thinking about not going to San Antonio over, was just like, do I like
Are you
the new
bailing San
sets?
Antonio?
No, I think I'm gonna be going to San
Okay.
Antonio, but I was like, I mean, the new set's gonna be out. I can't like I'm one of my things I want to like do is like prep with the deck I plan to play for the major tournament I'm going to next. I just want to see what that process kind of looks like. Just playing a ton of games on PTCG Live Ladder on stream, leading up to a tournament, and then see how that goes. See what my performance is like. See what the end result is. I can't do that for San Antonio now because the new set comes out and Badoo will be legal on PTCG Live. So it won't be the same format as what I'm going to play at San Antonio. So I can't really prep for San Antonio. Um, but we wouldn't have that problem if the sets were the syncing, or the sets were more synced up, closer synced up, right? Then we'd be playing with Badoo at San Antonio, and it'd be a little bit different. I don't know. It's just kind of annoying. I had something else I was going to say as well. We're talking about, yeah. I feel like that would be like fine. Also, okay, I guess like a bigger thing with that as well. It's obviously not going to happen for EUIC. It is going to happen for NAIC. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a new set leading into NAIC. I think a new set leading into the ICs is like a pretty big difference in terms of hype for the tournament for the TCG side of
Oh,
things.
big time, especially whenever it's like the set isn't legal, but then it comes out the next week, like what
Yeah,
happened in
like who
LAIC.
I was like, yeah, I was like, dude, I don't know. I almost didn't stream LAIC because I was like, bro, I don't know. The new set's out. I could be playing with the new set, playing in tournaments in the new set. Feels pretty bad, to be honest. And that's what I'm saying. Like it hits like that, but I feel like that is probably that's maybe the most important uh section of the competitive players, is the players who care about that stuff. Like me as a content creator, that's one of the reasons I care about it a little bit more. But even if I wasn't a content creator, I might still care about it. But the people who like interest in the game is kind of propelled by the new cards. that's like a really big part of the competitive player base, I feel like, or the people who tune into the streams and stuff and want to see the cool new cards. Like that's probably like 50% plus of the audience who is like more in the competitive realm. The new cards not being legal for the IC and stuff, that affects them, which is like it's just a big percentage, I think. So I think it's like NAIC should have a new set release lined up with it. It looks like based on the dates. But next season they should try and get that back
I
on
think that should
track.
be a priority as well. Yeah.
Yeah, IC should line up with set releases because LAIC was pretty. It just felt bad. I don't know. It just felt bad. Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
All right. Well, now 40 minutes into our episode, let's talk about our first main topic of the week. And that is a new rule that has appeared at North American events. So I think the first way this was kind of brought to the public's attention was Kieran Farah told the story on his podcast of exactly what happened to him, one of his rounds at Toronto Regionals. Is that what it
Yeah,
was, right? That's kind of where
yeah,
people first started talking about this.
yeah. That's what I heard about it. I was gonna listen to the podcast episode. I didn't get around to doing that, so I could actually like get the full story from him. But he
Shout
summarized it a
outs
little
to
bit.
Kieran and Anil as well with the
Yeah,
Shift Gear podcast.
yeah. Go check him out for sure. But when it got brought up to me, he was in my chat. He actually came through in my chat either at that point or sometime after. But basically, what he said, I don't think I'm gonna get anything wrong here. Was there was I assume they got deck checked. His opponent had a problem with one of his cards that the deck check process of figuring out what the what should happen took a while. And then at the end of that, his opponent had to re-sleeve as well, which led to it taking even longer. So the whole process, I believe, took over 20 minutes to resolve to get the conclusion of what was ever wrong with the opponent's deck resolved into the re-sleeving, and then that led to like an over 20 minutes of non-play time happening, which I'm sure Kieran usually is, I feel like, a player who's probably on top of those kind of things, so was probably taking note of how much time is being burned. And the time extension that was given was 16 minutes because of apparently a new rule that exists but doesn't actually exist in the rule book, if I'm not mistaken, but is being implemented at North American regionals, and that might just because that hasn't happened at European regionals because the European regional hasn't happened um since this rule has been implemented, but time extensions can't exceed 16 minutes now apparently, which feels weird.
And it comes from Will Post here, who on Twitter said, speaking as the TCG lead slash assistant lead for the last three regionals, North American events have been asked to enforce a 16-minute maximum time extension. At this time, there's no documentation to for staff to point to, but this is likely event policy in NA for the season. Important to note, my understanding is that this direction comes from TPCI and is not an organizer decision. So ultimately, this is best addressed with a support ticket to TPCI customer support. So I think there's kind of like two sides of the coins here, right? Tournament integrity versus the tournament integrity versus running a timely tournament, right? And we've talked about the timeliness of tournaments a lot the last few months when it comes to the round changes and stuff that have happened this year, right? We have
Yeah.
less rounds. Obviously, that's something that's pretty prevalent in Pokemon's mind right now is running a good experience tournament for the wider player base, which I think is definitely an important thing, of course, right? But competitive integrity is also extremely important, making sure people have equal opportunity to compete at these events for the set amount of time mints to be provided, which at regional championships is 50 minutes plus three turns. But now 16 minutes, the longest amount of time, kind of an odd arbitrary number. I feel
Yeah.
where
Why
does
would you
this,
not pick 15 minutes?
is it like a percentage of 50 minutes? Is that what it is? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe a percentage of amount of time they want to go.
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah, maybe it's like based on how much they're trying to keep the time per rounds under.
sure.
So yeah, it probably is. It probably is some. There probably is some math equation in there because picking 16 minutes over 15 minutes just feels weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has to be some kind of equation there that led them to 16 minutes overall. Yeah, I think it definitely does potentially jeopardize the competitive integrity of the tournament. We saw it affect one of Kieran's matches. and what could have led from Kieran. I think it and maybe ended up in a tie in Kieran's match instead of like a potential win. Like Kieran was up in game 3 or something like that. I think is my understanding. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think that's
Um,
right because I think his only tie in
oh,
unless
was it
this
not?
happened in day 2, I think
It
his
was
only
day
tie
2.
in day was in day 1 during the stream game where he played against the Reggie's guy.
Oh, okay. Maybe not then. Maybe not. Maybe there wasn't actually any
Maybe it didn't impact.
maybe it didn't impact, but maybe it's just the overall tie. I thought it did impact. That was my understanding that it did impact
I've not
the
listened to his episode either,
final
so I'm
vote.
not sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, we won't speculate anymore on that. But um what was I gonna say? Uh I I understand that point of view. Yeah, we're trying to keep the tournament moving. So let's say they want a 60-minute max time extension, then these judge call dude, some of these judge calls take how do people end up I've never had, I don't think, like a 10 the longest time extension, I can't even remember the longest time extension I've ever had. I can't be more than a couple minutes though.
I will tell you. So, like, we're often pretty aware, with, like, the stream and stuff of how far behind either the stream is or the tournament is from, like, what match is happening on screen, right? Because 'Cause we're trying to, like, match the timings of things. Ideally, we want the stream match to be ending, like, as the rest of the round is ending so we can, boom, get into the next Swiss round as quickly as possible for the
Yeah,
tournament's sake and for the broadcast's sake, right? Especially last year, though, there was several times where there would be 20 plus minute time extensions, and there was several times where they were often similar people, and they were often, I think a lot of times some of this, so like Kieran's situation is obviously a little bit different here.
yeah,
A very real issue that did just naturally take longer than 16 minutes. Sometimes these judge calls take as much time as they do because players continue, they know their right and ability to appeal up the chain of command. And even though like a ruling probably should be one way, and they probably deep down know the ruling should be one way, they want to
they push
within,
it.
and they're within their right to
Yeah.
push it up the chain of command and try to get as many people as possible to like weigh in on their situation. That I think is what happens probably in 90 plus percent of 20 plus minute extensions is players pushing it up the chain of command for a ruling that really should have not taken nearly that long.
Yeah, and I did talk about this a little bit on my stream about that, and it's like I think the judges just need to like know when to like nip it in the bud and be like, nope, this is the result. If you want to argue further, we're gonna give you a match loss on this
Sure.
round. And I think I I don't know if you know for sure on this. I think there's more than one head judge who is like the final say on stuff now. I'm pretty sure at these tournaments,
There are
like there's
multiple head judges and
yeah,
yeah,
but I think in the past there was just one. But now when you appeal to the head judge, you might not get the head judge, but you're going to get someone who gives you the final word. And they're just going to be like, nope, this is the result. And I think the judges just need to be more. They like. I feel like some of these things take too long. Part of it is the players appealing on appeal on appeal on appeal. So the end of the line needs to probably come sooner, which it should just be one appeal, head judge comes over, that's it. I feel like there's sometimes there's like an extra appeal that happens, but but it still feels like that process of the judges coming to a determination on what the result should be takes too long sometimes. So um, there's not much that I would say that the players need to do. The judges just need to be. I think it's just fair for the judges to be just to get to the end result faster. Like it's just, if we want to have the maximum time extension to be 16 minutes, then you just got to get to that end result faster. Because I feel like some of these things, it shouldn't. I don't understand how some of these things take so long. If even if the player is appealing on appealing, I feel like the judges are just trying to be too nice, or maybe they're just like told or like taught to de-escalate the situation and like spend that extra 5 minutes making sure that the players all feel comfortable about the situation. Bro, if the player gets out of hand, just kick him out of the venue. I've heard some stories sometimes of some stuff that players have said, and I'm like, how was this person not DQ'd? Like, I would have, if I was the judge in that situation, I would have been like, this player needs to be DQ'd. What they just said to the judge or the other player is absurd. Like, how is this player still allowed in the venue? Like, I think this stuff just needs to be taken. Uh, we talked about it. Was it like last? Oh no, I talked about it recently with like some cheating clips that we saw recently. But like the no, what is the word I'm looking? What's the term I'm looking for?
no
Just like
nonsense.
kinda like no nonsense, but yeah, basically, like, if this happens, immediate DQ, just, like, move everything along, like yeah, I was talking about, like, there was a couple cheating clips that happened, there was, what, a cup in Peru, and then one of them happened at the major tournament in China, recently where someone they just put a Marnie from their deck into their hand.
I didn't
Like,
see that.
on stream, they just literally they used Archeops, got their capture energy, put it on their Klefki, and then like they're looking at their deck still. They put a Marnie at the front of their deck, and they ask their opponent how many energy they have in their discard pile or what energy. So their opponent goes to like go check their discard pile, and they drop a Marnie into their hand.
Holy
Um,
cow.
and I was like, my thought process with that was just like, if this stuff is happening on like, there's not that many games that are streamed, so this has to be happening a lot more. And there's not that much more. Maybe it's a topic we should have brought up, to be honest, was like these clips. We could have looked at them as well. Maybe we still talk about them. But like there just needs the only way to like really, I feel like, influence the player base heavily is to just be like, there's no, I mean, no, it's not no nonsense is not the term I'm looking for, but just be like, if you do this, you're banned. Like there just needs to be the precedent that if you do this, you're banned. And it has to be the same thing with these like ruling things, so we can move the tournament along. If you want shorter time extensions, then the judges need to be like, if you do this, this is the result. And if you're going to argue further, you're getting uh, a match loss. And if you push it again, I'm DQing you from the tournament. You just kicked out of the menu. Just like there's need to be no
Yeah.
nonsense. We just need to move
You
stuff
you
along.
you do wanna, like, kinda you don't wanna decentivize players from taking their right to,
Yeah,
uh
let them appeal.
yeah,
The
yeah,
head judge
yeah,
can come over, and then the
yeah.
head judge can kick them out instead of the floor judge kicking them out.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, you don't want people to be you don't want it to be a situation where I don't wanna appeal because I'm worried that I'm gonna have further penalty against me. But at the same time, it's like you wanna decentivize the people who are appealing for no reason, really.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. Or no, let them appeal, but like make it clear that once you do your appeal and the head judge comes over, if the head judge
Yeah.
says the same thing, if you push it past that, you're getting
Or
to the
continue to argue for 3, 4 minutes or whatever it
yeah,
is. Yeah.
exactly. Like there has to be. And I was gonna say it has to be a little bit on both ends, but really it doesn't. This all has to come from the judges' side of thing of just being more harsh, being more directly to the point. Because I think a lot of these longer time extensions can simply be prevented by the judges just getting to the point quicker, and
Yeah.
then the precedent being set that if you're gonna, you know, push back past them putting their ruling down, that's when you're getting DQ'd and you're getting kicked out of the venue, which I think is fair. And the judges, I think, with that process, there will be some growing pains where the judges are going to get it a little bit wrong sometimes. But I think that's fine. Some judges get stuff wrong all the time. It's going to happen. Doesn't really matter. Hold them accountable. You know, hopefully they try and do better. Um, but yeah, I think that it all comes from the judging side of things for the most part.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next topic here. It's a kind of a big, exciting one. The reveals from the recent Champions League Osaka of the newest cards coming out in our owners set. Is going to be Battle Partners releasing in Japan. The release date's March 17th. Is that right?
That's for us.
Oh, our set is going to be called Battle Partners.
No, I think that's their set.
Our set is
We,
Journey
we
Together then.
yeah, our set is journey together.
Okay.
The
Well,
release
yeah.
dates are on Justin Basil. It's January. Oh wait, maybe it's just actually it's March 17th there. It's maybe supposed to say January 17th.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Because we're supposed to get
Yeah,
this.
this says
Oh no.
2024.
Yeah, because we're oh.
Which is also
yeah.
not right.
Yeah, I think. But yeah, we're getting it March 28th. Journey Together, March 28th. Japan, January 24th. So honestly, it's just all over the all over the place. Maybe that's the release weekend.
You know, we'll figure it out. All
All right.
right. We got
The
a
whole
bunch of
part is
new
the
cards
cards.
here to talk about. Actually, I don't know. Is this the I guess this is fine. I don't know which one of these had been revealed previous to this. I don't think many of them had been, right? The Lily's Clefairy got revealed at Worlds, so that's about it.
The Clefairy and
Um,
the Zork is it, yeah, I think.
all right, let's get through it then. We'll start off with the Meowscarada here. These were all revealed during the Champions League in Japan. Really exciting time. Do wish we would have something like that happening over here, but as it stands, let's get into it. So, showtime here for the ability. Once during your turn, you may use this ability. If this Pokemon is on the bench, switch it with your active Pokemon. And then the attack here, Rising Bloom 90 plus. If your opponent's active Pokemon is a Pokemon EX, this attack does 90 more damage. It is a stage 2, but it is a grass type. 2 colorless energy, it does one hit KO Charizard EX.
Yeah. But Meowscarada EX already does that, and double turbo energy is rotating,
Yeah.
but
Well,
maybe we'll get
Meowscarada
another
needs more
double.
steps to one hit KO Zoroark.
Yeah, a little bit. Maybe we'll get more doubles, another double energy though. I feel like double energies are usually something that's like not a constant in the Pokemon TCG, but they make their way around. Maybe
Yeah.
another double's on the way.
We do have In's Darmanitan. Let me just read the Zoroark real quick so we can like be able to
Yeah,
reference this against any other In's Pokemon that we need. And I guess one other thing to note as well for these Pokemon that are going to have owners in their name, like we have In's Darmanitan, we've got Iono's Electrode, right? These are different from regular Darmanitan or regular
yeah,
Electrode, right? So in theory, you could play a deck that had four In's Darmanitan and for regular Darmanitan. They are different named Pokemon,
yeah.
but In's Darmanitan only evolves from In's Darumaka. In's Darumaka only evolves into In's Darmanitan. So it's like they're totally separate. Think of them as two different Pokemon, is really the way to think about
Don't play 8 Darmanitan in your deck, it would suck. So
it.
don't do that.
In theory. So here's the Ins Zoark EX. This, of course, got revealed at Worlds. A big deal. Throwback to the good old classic Zoark EX, or GX, I should say, with its iconic trade ability. You must discard a card from your hand in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may draw two cards. And its attack is Night Joker. For two darkness energy, choose one of your benched Ins Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So obviously, seems like a pretty powerful card because of that ability. 280 HP on a stage one Pokemon is a lot of HP as well. But it's only going to really be as good as the other ends Pokemon that exist in the format allow it to be because those are the only attacks that it can use to do damage. So one of those did get revealed this weekend, which is the Ends Darmanitan with the pair of attacks here backdraft 30 times for two colorless. This attack does 30 damage for each energy card in your opponent's discard pile. And then the Blaze Ball Cannon 90 damage. Discard all energy from this Pokemon. This attack also does 90 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Welcome back, Radiant Greninja.
Yeah, I mean, it does only hit the active, which is a pretty big difference, to be honest. But Manaphy does rotate. Manaphy does rotate when these cards release. Yes, because whenever I mention that, people are like Rabska. Yes, Rabska exists, but it's if the end player goes first, then they're going to be able to Darmanitan before you get Rabska set up, unless you play Team Evo, I guess. You could have Team Evo there. Wait, does Arvin rotate? No, Arvin's
Arvin does not rotate.
yeah, it doesn't rotate. Okay, so yeah, the Team Evo engine still exists, and apparently they hate Ceruledge because Backdraft. The only deck that I can think of that really hits hard is Ceruledge. Stuff like Raging Bolt, not as much to be honest. And they don't have to have that many energy in their discard pile, so and maybe they thought Ceruledge would be a bigger beast than it inevitably was. But we could go through all the end stuff first, I guess. Like we should maybe do them
Yeah,
in like
sure.
packages here.
Yeah, we've got in Sigilyph here, Victory Sigil for its main attack. It's
Oh, hold
if
on, is it not Sigilif?
what did I say? Sigilyph?
Yeah.
I think it's probably Sigilyph.
All right, just had to correct.
Sigilyph.
Yeah, I had to get my one chip correction in there while I could,
Sigilyph. I
because
don't actually know for sure, but
I had that realization after I read the attack, and then I was like, wait, isn't its name? Because I used to say Sigilyph as well. I
Sigilyph.
yeah.
Victory Sigil here. If you have exactly one prize card remaining when you use this attack, you win the game.
Okay. I mean, usually decks don't care about this kind of stuff. We've had Unknown V in the format for forever. No one's ever used it. Getting your last prize card is not too difficult, especially with Boss's Orders in format. So this would maybe be good up against some kind of like tank deck. We don't really have anything in that in the format. I'm thinking about like stuff like
Arceus Duraludon or something like that.
yeah, maybe, but even then they're probably gonna have something on the bench. I was thinking like Stone
No,
Journer. I'm thinking like back in the day to like
I
something
think
like a Stone
Arceus
Journer.
Duraludon, where they would go Arceus into two
Oh, Arceus
Duraludons,
Duraludon. Sure. Yeah.
not
For some reason,
Archaludon. Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
thought you said
yeah.
Archaludon. I was like,
No.
yeah. Yeah. Decks like that, something like this could have been like a good card. So this will be like a potential tech in the future.
Yeah, and I think this is better than things like Unknown because you don't want to power up and put 3 energy on an Unknown V to win the game. That's a lot of work. You don't want to power up an Sigilif and put a Psychic and 2 colorless energy on it to use this attack. But if you're already playing an Ends deck, right? Like all you have to do, like you're going to be putting darkness energy on your Enzark EX anyway.
Yeah.
all you have to do is bench the thing. I agree. Generally, it's probably not good because there will be plenty of other ways to try to take your last prize. But I could see a format coming around where this card is definitely good. It's like one of those things. Like if you're playing an ends deck, like keep it in mind maybe with how you build your deck. Then we've got the ends Reshiram here. This also got revealed at Worlds. Um, Powerful Rage. 20 times this attack does 20 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So, of course, in Zork, 280 HP. That's a lot of HP. Makes your opponent think twice about hitting into you. And then Virtuitous Flame, 170 damage.
Yeah, so it'll be mostly for the rage attack probably, and it is a basic, so it'll be easy to get onto your bench and set up. Stuff like the Darmanitan, I don't even know if you'd run it in an ends deck. I think you'd probably run a 1/1 Darmanitan. The threat of it seems pretty good. But then you'll definitely play like one Reshiram for the rage attack, and like the 150 is like kind of like a good
170.
neutral attack, or the 170, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, and if someone is trying to play passively and like not hit your in Zork because it's like, I don't want to boost up Powerful Rage, then you can just start hitting them for 170. No drawbacks, right?
yeah, exactly.
And there will probably be more cards revealed as well for this eventually. But we
More
do have
Pokemon, yeah.
Ends PP up. Attach one basic energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Ends Pokemon.
Yeah, and I think this was like pretty predictable that something like this would come out for the ends deck, the end Zoroark deck, because Dark Patch is rotating,
Yeah.
which would have been like the other inclusion to run in the deck if it didn't rotate. Then you just Dark Patch to your Zoroark plus attach for turn, and it's attacking. But with it rotating, there had to be something else that was coming out in terms of energy acceleration, because I don't think like Crispin would cut it as like that, or like the Pokemon for ends could have been so powerful that just going manual attach into maybe like play EXP shares to your next Zoroark would have been enough. But
Yeah.
this is pretty predictable that we'd be getting something.
Let's go through the Iono's Pokemon next. We've got Iono's Voltorb and Electrode, and this is one of the odd situations where the pre-evolution is probably the more interesting one of
Yeah.
the pair. Iono's Voltorb here has the Chain Bolt attack for 2 colorless, 20 plus. This attack does 20 more damage for each lightning energy attached to your Iono's Pokemon. And then the Electrode here for 2 lightning, Heart Pounding Bomb. This Pokemon does 100 damage to itself. It has 100 HP, so it knocks itself out unless you have some sort of tool or damage reduction thing on it, or HP increasing, right?
Yeah.
And then flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out. And
Like
then let me just
truly a terrible Pokemon. It's like so bad.
it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But the
Go
Voltorb
ahead.
not too bad paired with the Iono's
Yeah.
Bolt EX here. 280 HP, stage 1 lightning type. Electro Streamer. As often as you like during your turn, you may attach a basic lightning energy card from your hand to one of your Iono's Pokemon.
Yeah, and that does 230 for 3 lightning and a colorless. So, but yeah, I think this is what I was saying when they released the Belly Bolt and stuff at Champions League, then the Voltorb and stuff got released later,
Yeah.
like the week after. And I was like, this deck is like missing something that can one hit KO something. I was like, you have E Switch, but like stuff like Raichu V rotates. But then they released the Voltorb, and it's like, okay, well, I think you can probably make that work.
You got to get a
Where
lot
it's
of
like,
energy in play.
you do have to get a lot, but you could probably run like 20 lightning energy. And I mean, it combos with what your draw engine will be, which is that Kilowattrel.
Yep, Iono's Kilowattrel here. Flash draw. You must discard a lightning energy from this Pokemon in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand.
Yeah, so really powerful draw Pokemon there when combo with something like the Belly Bolt. Put a ton of energy in play. You can take one hits with the
You can
Voltorb.
use 3 or 4 Kilowattrels a
Yeah.
turn. Like your attacker is a basic Pokemon if you're attacking with Voltorb over and over
Yeah,
again.
your bench could literally be two Belly Bolt slash Tadbulb, 3 Kilowattrel, and then your Voltorb or whatever, and that can just be your whole setup. And the kill watch only has one retreat cost. So you could put a rescue board on there to be able to move it in and out. And this combo super well with the new stadium card that's coming out as well. If you want to go take a look at that.
Yep. We do have Lavencia here. Stadium. Once during each player's turn, that player may put 2 basic lightning energy cards from their discard pile into their hand.
It's pretty good. Probably honestly, like that's like one of the most powerful. It's on par with like Giant Hearth. I feel like for power level of stadium, because that stadium was ridiculously good. Um,
Yeah.
like anything that plus ones and like has the potential to plus more than that if it sticks in play for a turn is pretty good usually.
Yeah. Shout outs to the powerhouse that was Mount Coronet.
Oh, I forgot about Mount Cornet, I'm not gonna lie. This one was less good just because like, metal Pokemon just kinda sucked,
Wasn't
right?
there,
Oh, it was
like,
good in,
a control deck that played this, right?
yeah, there was a control deck that played it. I don't remember how
Just to
good the
be able
control
to
deck was.
always get back
Infinite,
energies.
yeah.
Yeah,
You could
created
lose
an
him.
infinite.
Wait, could Lusamine get back stadiums?
Lusamine can be get back stadiums or supporter
I
cards.
think you could, like, infinite energy resources with the Cornet. I think that
Yes.
was, like, the idea, if I
I don't
remember
remember what the
correctly.
deck was, but there definitely
I
was a
don't
deck
remember
that played
either.
this.
Well, there was also the Magnezone deck. Uh, what was it? What was the Pokemon called?
Duskmane Necrozma.
One of the biggest flops of all time. I don't remember if this stat is 100% accurate for sure, but this deck at the Louisville Regional Championships was the most popular deck. When this set released, it was the most popular deck day one, and zero made day two,
I
which
don't
is
know, do we have the
absurd.
statistics? We didn't have statistics like that back then.
I think we did. We somehow I remember that.
No.
Is it on Limitless?
There was no way we would have had the decks for everyone in day 1.
We knew it was the most popular deck.
I don't
Wait, how did
know
we
that we
know? How do we
did.
know that? Yeah, how
That
would we
wasn't a
have known
thing that
that?
we had until post-COVID because we didn't even have that, Metashare graph and stuff for the first few regionals post-COVID.
Did someone like do it by hand, like looking at the deck
Look,
list?
no, dude, it just didn't happen. You're just imagining.
No, dude, I remember that being a thing. I remember people talking about that. It was the most popular deck day one.
It
No, I
could have
think
been
we
a
did
thing.
have.
It could be one of those things where it's like it was the most hyped up deck. It definitely was very hyped when this deck
It
came
was
out.
pretty high. There was a lot
Everyone
of
was like,
them.
"This is gonna be broken. It's gonna be good." Yeah, probably people played it. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone just assumed it was the most popular deck day 1.
I remember that stat, but now that you're mentioning it, like I don't know how we would have come to that conclusion. I don't know how that conclusion was
We
possible.
we wouldn't have. Anyway, but yes, I do think so, like, energy flood decks like this have existed in the past. They've been really good in the past, but they've also not been very good in the past, right? I mean,
Yeah, you need a
Darkrai
lot of small
V-Star is
damage
a
too.
card that's kinda similar, right? It does a lot of damage for each energy in play. The big thing that is helping Iono's Voltorb here is that, it is a single prize Pokemon, and you can also go to a single prize board pretty easily with this deck if you wanted to as well, because Iono's Bellibolt evolves from a single prize Pokemon, so you could, like, Professor Turo, get your Bellibolt out of play after drawing
Yeah.
a bunch of cards with Kilowattrel, and really kind of limit your opponent's prize trade. So I think there is definitely a lot of potential here with this deck.
Yeah, it is kind of like it's actually kind of sad how bad the Electrode is. Like it's not even like an option. Like when would you ever play? I guess like there could exist a matchup where their Pokemon like it's some kind of tank deck where like to get your first knockout, you just want to go into a heart pounding bomb and go on the flip to try and get the initial knockout, I guess. But yeah, it's not even like because I'm trying to think of like even in Dialga decks, like people were considering Metagross as like an option to run as a one of
I know
in
when you would
Dialga
play
decks
this.
when
Whenever the meta is so dominated by Iono's Pokemon that this card becomes a counter to it.
oh my gosh. Dude, wait, are people actually gonna play this? Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's lightning Pokemon. It's a belly bolt with the ability Insulator. It prevents all damage from lightning Pokemon.
There will probably be some non-lightning type Iono Pokemon, I would guess, possibly. Maybe not
Or is
actually.
that the tech for the mirror? How much damage does it do again? What is its
Well, you
attack?
can't you'd have to play a regular Bellibolt, dude.
Oh, a Tadbulb. Yeah, regular
A
Tadbulb. Oh
regular
yeah, I forgot
Tadbulb.
about that.
Yeah.
True. All right, so this could be played in anything, I guess, technically.
This is why you play the Electrode as a one of just in case. They've got the Bellibolt wall.
True.
All right, let's move on to the Lilies Pokemon, which there's just a couple of. I think this is like evidence that there will be more of these things revealed, right?
Yeah,
Um,
especially when you read the Comfy, which we'll
yeah,
start with.
yeah. Well, let's do the Clefairy real quick, even though it did get revealed at Worlds. Just read it again. It's 190 HP, basic Pokemon, Fairy Zone for the ability. The weakness of each of your opponent's Dragon Pokemon in play is now Psychic type. Apply weaknesses times 2, and then Full Moon Rondo for a Psychic and a Colorless 20 plus. This attack does 20 more damage for each benched Pokemon, yours and your opponent's. Of course, this is coming out the exact same day that Regidrago V-Star will rotate. So
What
good.
dragon Pokemon is this for?
Dragapult.
Oh, true. I guess like yeah, it does line up into Dragapult and maybe checks Dragapult pretty heavily.
And then we've got the
Fair.
Lilies Comfey here. Flower Invite, search your deck for any number of basic Lily's Pokemon and put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. So as of now, you can Flower Invite for 2 Lily's Comfey and then 4 Lily's Clefairy, and that's it.
Hold on. We're doing damage for bench Pokemon in play. I think we got an Ogerpon or Terapagos on our bench with the Area Zero in play. We're gonna Flower and Vibe for a couple more. But
Okay,
yeah, there
fair.
probably is some other Lily's Pokemon that will be able to Flowers Invite for. And also, I mean, it might seem a little weak. It's only got 190 HP, but there's a big card coming out in this set for the and only just 20 was it 20 plus 20 for each bench Pokemon.
Yeah.
Your opponent can limit their bench. But Lily's Pearl, new tool card, is a pretty big deal.
If the Lily's Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from an attack, your opponent's Pokemon, that player takes 1 fewer prize card.
Yeah, so we've seen this in the past for a Sylveon tool, I believe, but it reduced Sylveon's HP by 100, and we never really saw any play. It did the exact same thing that reduced Sylveon's HP by 100, and then your opponent takes 1 less prize card. The Lily's Pearl just says your opponent takes 1 less prize card if it's attached to a Lily's Pokemon, which seems way better. And you can put it on anything. You can put it on the Comfey.
This didn't reduce HP.
Oh, it didn't.
You're thinking of
The V Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out
you're
by an
thinking
attack.
of
Yeah.
Heroes Metal.
Oh, I am thinking of Hero's Metal. That was for
Yeah.
VMAXs,
It was
right?
all VMAXs, got
Hmm.
1 less prize card and minus 100 HP, but VMAX Pokemon would still give up 2 prize cards because they gave up 3 prize cards normally,
Yeah.
right?
That Heroes Metal saw a little play in Mew, but I don't think it was ever very successful.
Yeah.
Saw a couple people play it. And then the ribbon badge, yeah, the ribbon badge, that is what the ribbon badge did. But yeah, that never saw. Oh no, it did see some play in when people play. The Sylveon VMAX just sucked, but sometimes people
Yeah.
played Sylveon VMAX in like a rapid box, and they would play a ribbon badge. Um, yeah, you never like swarmed Sylveons, but this deck is built, or the way it looks like it is built to like swarm Clefairies, and you probably want some pearls on all your Clefairies for sure. It's a pretty powerful card there.
And then now I think the big one. Should we actually, I guess, do the other non-owners Pokemon that are coming out in this set first real quick
Yeah,
before we do
Mamoswine.
Hops? Yeah, which I guess all we have is we've got a couple trainers to talk about, or 1 trainer to talk about. But we've got the Mamoswine EX, which is actually kind of interesting. 340 HP, stage 2, fighting type with the Mammoth Cry ability. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. And then Rumbling March, 180 plus. This attack does 40 more damage for each stage 2 Pokemon on your bench. So it's normally
Yeah.
kind of tough to get a bunch of stage 2 Pokemon into play, but the Mammoth Carry, you stream a couple of these guys together, you're finding a lot of Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this seems like an obvious partner with this would be Pidgeotty X as well. So you got Mammoth Carry plus a quick search every turn. The Swinub or the basic one, yeah, the Swinub has Call for Family for 2, which you don't usually see. Like you don't see a Charmander with Call for Family for 2. You don't see a Ralts with Call for Family for 2. So you usually don't see Call for Family for 2 on like a powerful stage 2 or a more powerful stage 2 Pokemon. Now
Like Pidgey.
Mamoswine,
Pidgey?
yeah, well Pidgey does, but Pidgey's like not the attacker as well,
Sure, sure,
right?
sure.
So it's something you're like playing 4 of. Like you're not playing, you don't want to play 4 Pidgey. You could, but you're probably playing 4 Swinub. So opening it, decent amount. I don't know. There could be something here. 340 HP is a lot. It is weak to grass, but you only put 2 energy on this thing. So Ogerpon's not getting after you too aggressively. And with Drago rotating, is there going to be a really good Ogerpon deck anyways? Maybe just the Bolt. I don't know. You could, I mean, the question is like, how can you get up to like big 1-hit KOs on like Dragapults? That would be tough. You need like 4 stage 2s in play. Maybe some damage modifiers get involved. You can play some other stage 2s as well with how much Pokemon Search the deck theoretically
Yeah.
has.
I mean, it also could be a thing where it's like the first one, you 1-hit KO, and you just eventually, by like turn 3 or 4, get to the
Yeah.
1-hit KO, and that would be enough, right?
Yeah. So I'm curious what other stage 2s you'd run in this. You have the Mamoswine. You probably play Pidgeot.
I
What else
know.
gets included?
We got Energy Excel, bro.
Oh, we do need maybe for some kind of fighting energy acceleration would be nice. What do you have, the Infernape or something?
We got Garganackle.
Oh, sure. That one has there's a heal Garganackle as well.
It does both. Attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon.
Ooh,
If you attach energy to Pokemon this way, heal 30 damage from that Pokemon.
hold on. We could be heal. And we have the other Garganackle that also heals in between turns, heals 20. Put a Hero's Cape on our Mamoswine. Hold up, hold up. What does
Yeah,
Garganackle EX do? Are we ever running the
this
EX?
Pokemon can't be affected by special conditions during your opponent's next turn. It takes 60 less from attacks. This one's not as great. I mean, 3 energy. I think it's like you're definitely focusing heavy on Mamoswine, but I could see
Yeah.
this being like you gotta get some stage 2 guys in play. This is probably good energy excel, right?
Yeah, that seems decent. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there could be something there for Meowsime for sure. It's got a lot of HP, can theoretically hit pretty hard. Um, Something else that can hit pretty hard though is going to be these Hops Pokemon that we're going to talk about next. Which you'd think Zoroark would be like the big thing, or you thought and Zoroark was going to be the big thing
Dude,
from this set, but
yeah, dude, like, I mean, in such a cool and loved trainer from the games and stuff. And then we got Hop, which is almost universally disliked, but he gets the strongest Pokemon in the TCG. So
well, I don't know.
let's
The Zoroark, Zoroark's still pretty good, but there's a lot. They kind of I feel like they showed we haven't seen everything for Ends, we haven't seen everything for Lilies. Iono's seems pretty fleshed out. They kind of showed us everything for Hops here though.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it would be kind of crazy for Hop to get more support here, but we do have the Hops Zacian EX. Close cleave for the first attack, 30 damage, and then 30 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon, like you mentioned. Manaphy is rotating. And then we've got Brave Slash for 3 metal and a colorless. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Brave Slash. So that's a lot of energy, and it's like a good amount of damage, but it's not really enough to like clean anything up until you look at everything else that the Hops Pokemon have. So we've got Hops Snorlax here, Big Belly. The attacks of your Hops Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. You can only use one of these Snorlax. We have got the Hops Choice Belt here. When the Hops Pokemon this card is attached to uses an attack that costs 1 colorless energy, it's that attack costs a colorless energy less and does 30 more damage. So you can use this attack for 3 metals. You can do a lot more damage with the choice band. You can do more damage with the Snorlax. And then we also, if you need to do even more damage, just in case, right? We've got Postwick here. The attacks of Hops Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, do 30 more damage to the opponent's active Pokemon. We're going to be using Close Cleave for 120 to the active and 30 to the bench.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna be hitting pretty hard. Also, Brave Slash does one hit KO your opponent's active Pokemon with all that damage modification. KO's up to a Charizard EX plus 90. Setting it up for the Brave Slash is the question, but we have the cool card, reduces the energy cost by the colorless. And then we have Archaladon and Matang as acceleration. I feel like Matang's got to be better than the Don. The Don seems like it gets stuck on the active a lot
I
because all the energy
feel
is going to the Zacian.
I think that the Dawn might be better just because it guarantees it. It would allow for more
Guarantees it.
aggressive turns, right?
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I guess like that is the thing is like it's like the Matang I think is better in the long run, but the thing is like the close cleave seems so powerful that it feels like you could wait for the Matangs to get online. But I guess it's
Sure.
like the less guaranteed factor of it all. I don't know. Yeah, one of those though. You do have options for the energy acceleration. But I don't know. I just think of your Archaladons are getting stuck in the active over and over again. I mean, you'll probably play Prime Catcher or Scoop Up Cyclone if you're going with the Dawn route, maybe some Turos, but that's kind of slow. So I feel like Matang maybe even leads to more potential aggressive options.
All I know is it has been too long, and it is definitely time to welcome back our boy, good old Buzzwole.
It has been well, yeah, it has been a little while, I guess. Have we had a Jet Punch at all recently?
Not a good one. I'm trying to find a good Buzzrock list to show. But yeah, Buzzwole GX is, I mean, basically like everything about this deck is extremely similar to Buzzwole GX, especially when you consider the Hops Double, which we haven't talked about yet. Challenge Horn. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may switch in one of your opponent's benched Pokemon to the active spot.
Yeah, and I think that actually the double is weird, a little interesting because it does kind of ooh, excuse me. It does kind of
Goodness, buddy.
it does kind of continue my theory of I think that what's it called will rotate. Boss is definitely going to rotate because another Pokemon Gust effect we saw with the Meowstic recently as well, and the supporter. I think there might be some kind of hops Pokemon search card though, because that one feels kind of weird. The double feels kind of weird. It makes me think that there's going to be some kind of hops Pokemon search card coming out to actually be able to utilize. I don't think the hops double is going to see play because Boss and Prime Catcher and Pokemon Catcher, but yeah, pretty similar to Lycanroc. Except the double is not a good attacker, whereas Lycanroc was a very good attacker.
Lycanroc was low key the best attacker in this deck.
It's pretty good.
The dangerous rogue to one hit KO anything. And then one more Hops card here. We've got the Hops Cramorant.
Which
Um,
is
which is Baby Buzzwole, which eventually came out for the Buzzrock deck, not in this list I'm showing here. But Fickle Spit for one colorless, 120 damage. If your opponent's doesn't have exactly 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, this attack does nothing.
Which is also
So
something the other Buzzwole had as well, right? What was the other Buzzwole? 4 or less?
it was 4 exactly. It was only 4 exactly.
Was it really?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was 4. No, you are right though. Yeah, because like the quad baby Buzzwole deck was like you start with the first attack, and then you go into swing around. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, this guy.
Let's hammer into the swing around potentially.
So yeah, I mean, they've shown us everything for the Hops deck, I have to imagine. Maybe like a search card, like you said, could come out.
Yeah, might be one more trainer card for Hop,
And
but
then we do have, speaking of trainer cards, just a couple more to talk about here. We'll start with Brock's Scouting. Choose one. You get to search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon, reveal them and put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck. Or search your deck for an evolution Pokemon, reveal it, put it into your hand, search your deck. So
shuffle your
shuffle your deck. Shuffle your hand? Yeah, shuffle your deck. Um,
deck. Search your hand.
search your hand. Um, like I think that this would be if you looked at like an old format, like this is a card that would have been insane in like
Broken.
2010. Like
Yeah.
so
Well,
insane.
even
I mean, we
even
had
with like
Roseanne's in
Roseanne's
2010.
back in like 2004, 2005, this would have been
Our
ridiculous.
format's gonna have to change a lot for a card like this to be really good, is what I'm trying to say.
Hey, if research rotates.
If research
But
rotates and
also,
also Nest
I
Ball
think
rotates
I think
and
they're finally this card actually I think should have already existed. Like what am I thinking? Clive. We got like the one that searches for 3 evolutions. We have cards that search for 3 evolutions. We have cards that search for 3 basics, but they're so the game is so fast to the point where those cards you have to play them turn 1 or you have to play them turn 2. But Brock Scouting, it's probably best on turn 1 to find the basics. But if you don't find a turn 1 and you find a turn 2, now you can find an evolution,
it's
right?
not
Like these
useless as the game goes on.
exactly. Something like a Brock Scouting probably should have already existed and it probably would have still seen 0 play, but I think they're figuring out how to make these more specific Pokemon search cards be viable. Yeah, there it is. Clavel. That's what it is. Search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon with 120 HP or less, reveal them and put them into your hand. Even if this
Shout out to the evolution series.
Yeah, even if Clavel found just 3 basic Pokemon with any HP, this card would probably still be bad. Or if it was good, it would be like niche good in certain decks. So you could find stuff like Luminion and Pheasantipity, which would like you could find like or Squawkabilly, so you could find support Pokemon plus setup Pokemon. But even then, is that better than playing Research for Turn or just playing Arvin and guaranteeing your stuff? Probably not. But I think they're starting to go in the right direction. But like Clavel probably should have been Brock's, or it should have been a choose one. There should have been another effect on Clavel. Now the way they're doing it with like the Brock scouting, so they're headed in the right direction for trying to make these cards like better to the point where they might not be played in every deck, but like 1 or 2 decks in a format could be viable in those decks.
And then one more card here. We've got the exchange ticket. This one certainly generated a lot of discussion online. After counting your prize cards, shuffle them and put them on the bottom of your deck. Then take that many cards from the top of your deck and put them face down as your prize cards.
Yeah, and I think one of the one of the memes, one of the good meme takes. Well, maybe it's a little bit less of a meme and more of a reality potentially. Is one of the big discussions that has been talked about for like the past season, 2 seasons, has just been how long people are taking to check their prize cards. Now there's merit to checking for your prize cards twice in a game, depending on when you use this and if you had any control over what went into your prize cards with this card. So I really like this card though. Overall, I really like cards that interact with your prize cards. Big fan of heavy ball stuff like that. Um, Overall, you hear sometimes people talk about like should prize cards even exist? Should the Pokemon TCG be like Pokemon Pocket, where it's like a point system based on knockouts? I don't know. I like the prize cards. I think prize cards. I don't think they're inherently a negative thing. I think they're fine. I do think we should probably just look at our prize cards when we go to lay them out at the beginning of the game and just remove that as a factor in tournaments. The idea of checking prize cards should probably just be removed from the Pokemon TCG, or not knowing what your prize cards are, I guess I should say. So I like cards like this. They're always cool the way they interact. But this card would still be good even if you knew what your prize cards were, right? Because then you would, and it would even be more powerful because then you could aggressively find it because you didn't know off the rip what would be prized.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think it's going to lead to like a whole bunch of problems in like tournament play, but it's a cool card for sure.
Yeah. And there's a couple things you can do with this, right? You can, Cypher Maniac to put specific cards on top of your deck, to manipulate your prize cards in a certain way. We do have Dream Ball in the format currently. It's going to rotate when this card comes out, but that would have been like something theoretically cool you could have done, like Dream Ball out stage 2 from your deck, something like that. There's of course the Chansey that's from 151. People have talked about putting that card into your prize cards with this, right? Try to flip for some lucky bonuses. Um, and then another interesting aspect of this card is it doesn't say when you place your new prize cards to shuffle them. So if you
Ooh,
know which ones you have on top of your deck through like Academy at Night or something like that as well, um, you could place out your prize cards in a way where you know what you're going to take later in the game. I can't think of anything incredibly powerful at the moment. Like Chansey is probably the best thing, and that's not very good because it's a coin flip, right? You're going out of your way. Like you can't really build a strategy around using this card to get Chansey because it's just not consistent enough, right? But
not a good
there,
strategy, no. Good meme though.
but there, it is a good meme. It's definitely a good meme. Um, but there could definitely, at some point, be some good strategy around putting very specific cards into your prize cards. So it's kind of a cool card to see come out.
Yeah, definitely cool. Love it. Big fan of it for sure. And yeah, I think they should just change that. I mean, they just need to, and I think maybe just even if it happens just on the TPCI side of things, where we can just like look at our prize cards. You make that. They need to make that change. I guess that'd be something to add to the wish list. To be honest, just change your price or make it so we can just draw 7, have a basic, look at the top 6, shuffle them, put them down as your prize cards. Keep it simple. It's not complicated.
Well, those are the new cards revealed thus far. There will be more new ones from this set in the coming weeks. So be sure to stay tuned to future episodes as we get those cards revealed in Japan very soon. But yeah, let's move on to everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. But of course, before we do, we've got to take a moment to thank our fantastic sponsor, Dragon Shield, for supporting us here at the Uncommon Energy podcast. Of course, Dragon Shield makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop gaming products on the market. We love them for their sleeves. We use their sleeves in every Pokemon tournament that we play in. Um, They've also got, of course, binders, deck boxes. I use the Magic Carpet XL to store my cube. I use the cube shells for my cube as well. Many great Dragon Shield products. Azul's got still quite the stash of yellows, it looks like, there on the shelf. He needs to start
Yellows and
going to some
Auroras.
tournaments to start using them. But yeah, Azul, you got any you pick up any new sleeves for the holiday season for anyone in your life?
No, I did not. Although they probably would make pretty good stocking stuffers, to be honest. It'd be a good,
True.
definitely would be some pretty good stocking stuffers. But yeah, shout out to Dragon Shield as always for sponsoring the podcast. Check them over out at dragonshield.com. Link, of course, will be in the description. And you can use our code UEPOD, POD, to get yourself 5% off and directly support us here on the podcast.
Thanks so much to Dragon
Um,
Shield. As always, once again, that is code UEPOD. And now it is time for Guess That Flavor Text, where each week one of us picks a card, reads the flavor text, and has the other host try to guess which Pokemon we are reading from that card. We are currently, where are we at right now?
uh,
29 to 32. So I'm
close.
ahead by just a few points. There's actually an opportunity here. Azul could lead this week with a 4-point spike.
It'll be pretty tough, though.
It would be pretty tough, especially because I have picked a card here that I think you're going to have a hard time getting. So we'll see if you can do it. There are, of course, 3 lifelines Azul could use to try to help him out, but he gets 1 less point for each lifeline he uses. The lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and read an attack name. I've got it
Appreciate it.
ready, Azul. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here it is. All right. It uses black pearls to amplify its psychic power. It does an odd dance to gain control over its foes.
All right, I'm gonna need that one again.
It uses black pearls to amplify its psychic power. It does an odd dance to gain control over foes.
Man, that's really for some reason, I'm thinking of, like, Gothitelle. I don't know why. I'm trying to think of, like, the black pearls part. I'm trying to, like, think of any Pokemon that have, like, black pearls or just, like, black balls in their artworks, and for some reason, Gothitelle is coming to mind. Gothitelle is a psychic Pokemon. So I guess I could just start with what stage is the card?
Using a lifeline?
He's in a lifeline.
It is a stage 1.
Okay, so it's not. It could be Gothita, I guess. Then, but that doesn't feel like stage one flavor text. Go ahead and give it to me one more time. Flavor text.
It uses black pearls to amplify its psychic power. It does an odd dance to gain control over its foes.
I don't see. That's just such a weird flavor text. I'm thinking of like Hypno as well. Um, uh, I don't know if Hypno does hypnotize people. It does gain control. I could see Hypno doing an odd dance, kind of an odd looking fella. Um, let's go with another flavor. What set is the card from?
It is from XY Fates Collide.
Okay, so that's the set where we got Gallade. Gallade came
No,
out of that set.
the good cards that came out in this set was like the Safeguard Carbink. This was the set that N got reprinted in.
Okay.
Alakazam EX was the like main EX Pokemon from this set, so it was not a super good competitive set outside of N.
Yeah. Okay. So stage one, XY Fates collide. Give me the thing one more time. Odd
It uses black pearls to amplify its psychic power. It does an odd dance to gain control over its foes or over foes.
It is just Gothita. I guess give me an attack name. Let's use the final lifeline here and try and get 1 point.
Head walking.
Dude. What? Uh it might not be a psychic Pokemon, but like it's probably gotta be. So I'll just go with Gothita. I don't know. Yeah, Gothita. That wait, is
Oh,
that the stage two? The stage one? Basic stage one? That is the stage one,
Gothita's
right?
the stage one, yeah.
Yeah, let's go with Gothita.
Um,
Be Hypno, I
it's
guess.
not Gothita. Gothita has white pearls on it.
Hmm.
Let me. Oh no, Gothita's the state the basic. Gotharita.
Oh,
Gotharita is the stage.
Gothorita.
Let me read you what head walking does.
Okay.
Because when this card came out, there was a
Oh,
specific
is it
deck.
Musharma?
No, no, that's another good guess, though. That's another good guess. Let me read you what this attack does. Because when this attack came out, people thought it was going to counter a very popular deck in the format.
All right.
So it's a psychic energy. Put a basic Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile onto his or her bench, then put 3 damage counters on that Pokemon.
I don't know. I don't know what this one is.
It is Grumpig.
Oh, but of course, the Grump. Oh, it does have the black pearls too. Yeah.
There's the
Wait,
black
what did they think
pearls.
this was gonna counter? Gyarados?
Look at this comment. Head walking is basically a free prize by taking back a Joltig against Night March.
Yeah, sure, same. No, nobody thought that, bro. They were tripping.
Nobody really thought that.
Yeah,
But
no
that
one
was
really thought
obviously like
that.
the use case for this that attack.
Everyone in the wait, he's like up on stage dancing. Everyone in the audience has spoons.
Yeah, he's done an odd dance to gain control over his foes. And his command to them was bring me spoons.
I guess, yeah. You got the lounges in the background as like the speakers for the music. Dude,
Yeah, they're obeying what Grumpig has commanded.
he just has control over everyone. What the heck?
Yeah, he's a genius.
Crazy. Yeah, I don't think that was gonna be a tough one to get.
I knew it
I'm
was
not
gonna
gonna
be
lie.
hard. Bro,
Yeah.
I can't be giving you any free 4
True,
pointers
true,
here
true, true.
now. No free dubs.
True, true, true. All
Well,
right.
better
Well,
luck next week, Azul. Let us know down in the comments if you were able to
yeah.
get Grumpig correct for Guess That Flavor Text.
There's no way that many people also got Grumpig correct. There's no shot. Especially with like, yeah, nothing was giving it away as well. I don't even remember this card. I don't remember the artwork. Like sometimes I'll look at the artwork, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that card
Yeah.
at some point, but I've not seen that one before. Before we actually get into Osaka, I did want to bring up, like I did mention that there was a couple clips that I watched over the weekend on my stream where players were caught cheating on camera. That happened over the last couple of weeks. Um, I think two things. Like one thing I mentioned earlier in the podcast was like, I mean, there's not that many games that are being streamed. So there has to be like the percentage of players that are doing this is probably it's like I had that realization over the weekend. It's like if these two incidences happened over the last 2 weeks or whatever, Um, not there's not that many games that are being streamed. Like the percentage of players that are actually cheating at these tournaments has to be a lot higher than I've ever thought it was. For sure, I feel like, right? Um, but I think the biggest thing, I think there's a lot more. There's two things that I think need to happen. There needs to be people just need to, or the judge. There needs to be no tolerance, right? It has to be if someone cheats, it's got to be a DQ. It's got to be a ban, right? This is the first time you've seen this one.
Yes.
Yeah, so the first one that I mentioned was the Lugia player. They drop a Marnie from their deck into their hand. The second one is, yeah, the first one is the Lugia player distracts their opponent by asking something about their discard pile, and then they drop a Marnie from their deck into their hand,
Yep. Pretty
while they're
clearly.
using while they're using Archeops. And the second one is at a cup, I believe it was in Peru. I think is where it was. There was what the original tweet said. Um, the player set up to play the game. They and you could actually kind of see the player on the left's deck is look. It looks a little
It
short.
does it does look
It
small,
it
yeah.
looks a little small. So they're setting up for the game. They flip the coin, and then the player on the left takes a stack of cards out of their pocket and puts it on top of their deck. So they get the perfect starting hand plus maybe some bad prize cards, like good
Yeah.
prize cards to have prize. So I don't know how many cards it was. It was probably just a good 7. Probably they probably just put a good starting hand on top of the deck, but the deck does look a little small before they put their hand on top of the deck.
I feel
Um,
like I would have been sitting across from them and seen this and counted their deck. Like, I feel like I would have been able to recognize that does not look like 60 cards.
I've definitely had some moments like that before where then I've counted my opponent's deck sometimes. Like that been a reason for me to count my not at the beginning of the game, but like in the middle of the game, be like there should be just be more cards in this deck. I feel like, and usually it is still 60, but it just looks weird.
Yeah, sure.
I've never had it not be 60. But yeah, that is the first time I've ever seen someone cheat in that way, where they take 7 cards out of their pocket. I assume 7 cards and put it on top of their deck after they've decided who goes first and players have cut the decks and everything. So, but yeah, I think there's two things with this. Like I've never thought cheating wasn't a problem, which is an opinion people like to assign to me. I think cheating is a problem. I think people do cheat. I don't think you should go into a match assuming your opponent's a cheater, and I don't think it's as prevalent as a lot of people think it is. But it's probably more prevalent than I have given it credit in the past. The two things that have to come with this, there needs to be no tolerance on the organizer side, and I think there's been like a bad reputation or like a bad perception built up between us and Pokemon, namely due to one incident that happened the season before last, with a player not getting any kind of punishment. Um, After that happened, I think it definitely built up a little bit of I don't know, like a I don't know, a distrust between us and TPCI, the community and TPCI, right? Um, but there needs to, yeah, TPCI or tournament organizer in general, it needs to be DQ banned instantly if when it depending on when it's caught, right? But on the player side of things, you guys need I dude, some of the stories I hear that happen and then players don't call over a judges is like mind blowing. I'm like, how do you not call over a judge in this situation? Like, and the thing is, and because I stream and stuff, people come in my chat and be like, "Hey, Azul, this thing happened. Should I have called over a judge?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they were like, "Oh, I didn't because I was kind of tired." It's like, I don't know what you guys expect. Like, if you guys want people to be able to cheat and get away with it, I guess don't call over judges. But like, it's definitely some of it comes on the tournament organizer side of things. The DQs and bans need to be more aggressive, more harsh, more immediate. It just needs to be no tolerance for it. And like that needs to be the expectation. If you ever get caught doing anything like that, instant DQ, instant ban. Maybe it doesn't have to be a perma ban. That's like up for discussion. That's the only thing that should be up for discussion. I guess it maybe doesn't have to be a perma ban. But on the other side of the things, the player base, the community, you who are listening to this, you got to call over a judge. If anything happens where it's like, yeah, this is a little weird. This is a little sus. This could be happening. Call over a judge, get it resolved, make sure everyone's on the same page. Hopefully, it's nothing drastic and you just kind of progress with your game from there. But you guys got to start calling over judges more often because
Yeah.
it's crazy some of the stories I hear.
Yeah, gotta call over the judge. Even if it seems like a minor thing that's solvable in the moment, like you stop them from doing whatever the thing is, they at least will be able to like if it's a local tournament, they're aware of that player. And if it's in a regional championships, it gets made note of. A warning is issued, it's get made note of. And then if in the future in that tournament something else happens, the judges will know, hey, this person had an issue in an earlier round. Actually, I think I've told this story before, but one of the tournaments I played in last year, one of the regionals, round one. My opponent and I were sitting there waiting. We had set up, we had our opening hands. Um, we were listening to the announcements for round one of the tournament, waiting to start. I was kind of like looking around, listening, looking who was like, down my table, down the row, seeing whatever, looking side to side. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, during the earlier part of uh, while we were waiting, my opponent had been sitting there running his thumb along the side of his deck. I thought it was just kind of like a, nervous tick, whatever. He's just kind of sitting there going like this, shuffling his deck like this. And then as I'm looking to the side, he all of a sudden goes to cut his own deck and like move the top stack and put like change the cards that are on top of his deck effectively.
After you guys had set up?
Yes, we had set up. We had our opening hands. He goes, I'm sure I told the story on the
You
podcast at
maybe
some point.
have.
And so I was like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Oh, I was just cutting my deck." So I raise my hand and call over a judge, and the judge comes over. They talk about it. I tell them exactly what happened. My opponent disputed nothing, by the way, just sat there and kind of listened to what was happening. The people beside me are also like kind of knew what was happening as well. Maybe I didn't tell the story on the podcast because it was like
You maybe
recent to
haven't.
the tournament, and I didn't want to like I don't know, put the guy on blast or whatever. But I don't know. It was very a suspect situation. And then so they give him a warning. They, just give him a warning. We go on. We get a little extension because the tournament had started, and then we go in. We start our game, whatever. My opponent was playing Lugia. He was going first. He goes turn one, started like Cobalion or something like that. Draw, pass. I
The
was like,
mini top deck would have been pretty good there.
interesting, interesting.
Yeah, but those
But
write-ups are
simple
important
it's like something
because
simple where it's like, I caught my opponent, I said, "Stop, what are you doing?" It coulda just been written off as, "Oh, he, like, just thought it was something he could randomly do for some reason." But I called over the judges make note of it, they get a warning, we move on, and now you just I don't know, who knows what was happening over there on that side of the table.
yeah, and honestly, that seems like I could see that being that maybe should have been harsher, but let's just say a warning is like, a warning for the first time for that maybe is fine, but for the 4th time or 5th time, it's like, "Okay, what is going on here?" Like, there needs to be something harsher happening. We keep getting called over to this one guy's table, and he keeps trying to cut his deck after in a situation where you should not be cutting your deck. Like,
Yeah.
at that point, it is match loss, game loss, DQ, something like that, right?
Or,
So
for example, if a player keeps, I don't know, accidentally mulliganing when they had a basic Pokemon in their hand, it gets caught a few times into the tournament, and then something finally happens, right?
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, y'all gotta, like, step up the judge calling. When I say y'all, I mean, obviously, some people out there do it, and some people are in situations where they don't have to. You guys know you should know what I mean when I say talking to the community at large, because I hear way too many stories at tournaments, people asking me questions in my chat, like, just it's too much. It's too much, and it's ridiculous. I was like and every time I'm always like, "Yeah, you always call over a judge." I would call over a judge if I was in that scenario. Just gotta do it, not feel bad about it. Get the judge involved, it's fine. If your opponent's, like, a reasonable person who's also, like, fairly competitive, they'll have, like, an understanding for it as well.
Let's hop in and talk about the Champions League Osaka. It's been a couple weeks now at this point, but we still want to talk about the recap of the event because there was some pretty crazy stuff that happened when you look at the decks that made top 16. So the big story for this tournament was Badoo. What kind of impact is Badoo going to have? Is every single deck going to be playing a Badoo? In reality, it seems like it had an impact, right? It was prevalent in Top Cut. It was prevalent on stream throughout the weekend, right? But neither of the decks that make it to the finals were choosing to utilize it. And the finals was two pretty big surprises, I would say. Not things that I think anyone would have really predicted heading into the weekend. The Archaludon Dialga and the Ancient Box.
Yeah, and also, like, before we jump into, like, list specifics and everything, this is the biggest tournament ever outside of China now at this point. Usually we're saying outside of Japan, but I don't know how big the tournaments are getting in China. But there's 5,000 players at this tournament, and I believe the last Champions League had 4,000, yeah, 4,893. So they broke their record over there in Japan by 117 or whatever. So constantly breaking records over there, which is cool to see. And like I said, in China, I'm not sure their numbers. I think their numbers are bigger, but we don't actually know their numbers for sure. If anyone knows, feel free to leave in the comment section down below. I'd love to know what kind of turnouts are getting over there in China. And I guess like watching over the weekend, listening to what people are saying in chats, and seeing how people were kind of building their decks. I think two big takeaways besides what just did well was the number one deck was definitely Dragapult. everyone was teched for Dragapult or playing a deck to beat Dragapult. There was Radiant Serenas, there was picnic baskets, stuffs like decks like Sarah Ledge, and we'll look at the ancient box list here in a second. A lot of Monkey Dories just in a bunch of lists. Everyone was teched for Dragapult. We still see Dragapult did pretty well overall despite that. And it seemed like the second biggest deck overall was probably Gardevoir, which also seemed reasonably teched against with like jamming towers. A lot of really good players were playing Gardevoir, and it did seem decently successful overall, besides only one being in top 16 and it being a pretty interesting list. But it seemed like the second biggest deck at the tournament was Gardevoir, despite there only being one in top 16, as far as what really good players chose to play and what people seem to be prepared for was Gardevoir. So
Yep. Got to give a little shout out and plug to our friend Fabian, who had a pretty great run at this tournament as well. I think everyone from the Western side of the world was definitely rooting for Fabian a little bit, as kind
yeah.
of a representative from the TPCI regions playing in this tournament. And he ended up finishing 25th with a record of 12-3. And he did choose to play Gardevoir, like you mentioned.
Yeah, them not putting him on stream feels kind of criminal, to be honest. Like he was on his winning in. He was up there. He went into day two at like 8-1, I think. He was on
Yeah.
his winning in for top cut as well. I don't know why they didn't put him on stream. I feel like that would have been really cool to have put Fabian on stream for sure. I don't know how they go through the process of picking players, but they also have two matches available at all times. They have the main match and the secondary match as well, but he was never on stream at all throughout the whole tournament, which feels kind of bad. But he did go 12-3, which means he will be invited to the next Champions League. Apparently, if you go X and 5, you get an invite to the next Champions League.
I think it's
So
just for Japan Nationals. That's what this says.
oh, yeah, it is just for Japan Nationals. True, 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 true. It's not for that Champions League. It is for
Yeah.
Japan Nationals, which
The
is still
Japan
cool.
Championships at
Yeah,
the end
which
of the
is
year.
yeah, usually before NAIC, right? Isn't
I
it
th
usually a couple
Is it
weeks before
after?
NAIC?
Is it after? Maybe it's before.
Actually don't remember. We can look it up on where it was last year on Limitless, but,
I kinda thought it
um,
was, like, the last thing before Worlds was
it
Japan
was the
Championships.
week before last year.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it could be after this year, we'll see. But it'll be cool to see Fabian play in that for sure. That's super, super dope. And we know Tord was trying to play in the Champions League, did not get in through the lottery system, but we'll probably see him try and do it again. We might even see Fabian try and do it again. So getting more players outside of Japan playing in these tournaments in Japan is pretty sick. Like it's really, really cool to see that crossover of competition. We saw it in China not that long ago as well with Tord and some Japanese players going over to China. Tord made it on stream in that one. And I'm excited to see more of this happen. We've also seen Japan's honestly, Japan hasn't they've kind of been dominating our tournaments for the percentage of players that they are sending over, and they've already won two of them. Like they won in Australia, they won in Europe. They haven't taken an American one yet.
And they
Let that
won't!
happen. They won't. But it is really cool to see just like the international competition is so cool to see. And I can't believe some people still have the idea that they want regionals to be region locked. I can't believe that's still an idea that's floating around in the community when it's so
Is it
much more
though?
high.
Is it really?
It is. It's not like a popular idea, but people
Yeah.
bring it up now and then, and it's just such a stupid thought when the international competition that we see at regionals and even special events sometimes is just so much cooler to see this level of competition across the world in this way. So it's really cool that Fabian was over there, had a good showing. Sucks he didn't make it on stream, and was really close to top cut as well. So I'm just excited for the future of these tournaments and what other more competition we'll see like crossover with that. But yeah, those were the big decks. Like I said, Dragapult and Gardevoir seemed like the big two decks. Lugia was also really popular. Saw a lot of Lugia on stream, but our Chaladon did take it all down with the Dialga or Chaladon.
Yeah, I played this deck a lot, before Sacramento regionals, and I was really considering playing it. Like, I thought it seemed pretty good, to be honest. I mean, the deck is obviously very powerful. Um, yeah, our Chaladon's ability is insane. Energy acceleration like that. It has a ton of HP. It does a lot of damage. Um, but it just kind of has a hard time against a couple things, like especially Raging Bolts feels like a pretty impossible matchup for this
Yep.
deck. Um,
We see this list is not very tech for that matchup either. It doesn't have the Starmies or anything. I mean, Dialga's like your hope, but it's still pretty tough.
It is tough. But one thing I will say about this deck that I found when I was practicing and testing with it, it had a really solid Dragapult matchup, like just regular straight Dragapult. There was for some
Yep.
reason when I was playing this deck, I played against so many of those on the TCG live ladder, and I destroyed them every single time. Dialga is insane against a deck like that that is very reliant on getting an energy attachment every single turn, where you can almost guarantee at some point if you attack with Dialga, you are going to force them to miss an attack, which
Yep.
is just going to effectively put them 2 turns behind now.
Yeah, and you got the Turos in there for the heal. The Turos can outpace them by themselves, I think. If you play like 2
True.
Turos throughout the game, plus the Scuba Cyclone, like you just outpace their damage. So yeah, they definitely have a good Dragapult matchup. That's probably why we saw a decent amount of our Chaladon being played, and we see it be so successful. And if you look at this list is basically what people are currently playing, just minus Pokestops plus Jamming Towers, right? And the Jamming Towers, I think, mostly for the Guardy matchup to be able to keep up because Guardy's tough.
That
But
was
with
another
Jamming Towers
matchup that would
plus
be tough for
Dialga,
this, yeah.
yeah, with Dialga plus Jamming Towers, you definitely have a shot. And we'll look at the other Archaladon list here, which has 4 Jamming Tower. But yeah, this list is basically what people are currently running in the standard format.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the other Archaladon list. No Dialga. The Squawkabilly feels super sus to me, but I guess you have Turo and Scoop Cyclone to maybe get him out of there. But 4 Jamming Tower.
Yeah, 4 jamming tower, and I mean, this, like yeah, this deck is literally just Archaladon, this one, right? Like, you are
Yep.
just attacking with Archaladon every single turn. I'm like, that is it. That is the option. So pretty linear deck, and we don't really often see linear decks succeed, but for some reason, they almost always, like, are doing pretty well in Japan, right? Like, the Miraidons have done really well there in the past. We've got Ceruledge, a couple of those in top 16 here, a deck that has seen no success outside of Japan, pretty much, right? Um, things like
Yeah.
the Raging Bolt deck popped up initially in Japan. Like, I guess part of it is just the fact that Best of One does lend itself to these more aggressive turbo style decks, right?
Maybe a bit. I usually don't like to give Best of One too much credit as like a factor, but it is definitely a factor. I usually like to think of it more as a factor for who will succeed, not really what will succeed. But there definitely is like some decks are better in Best of 3, some decks are better in Best of One overall. And I mean that might be one of the reasons for the Sarah Ledge success. I don't know. It might just be a deck that maybe it is better once Badoo gets involved though.
There's
Like
also
once Badoo's involved, maybe that shakes up things enough where like Sarah Ledge also becomes like a viable meta deck because it's like not terrible. Like even in our current format, it doesn't feel terrible to play Sarah Ledge. It's just like it's just so many things that are better than it.
yeah, speaking of Badoo, I mean, Archaladon does not care about Badoo at all because
No,
Duraludon is resistant to grass -30 and Hammer in KOs Badoo for 1
yeah,
energy.
super low maintenance deck as well. Even if they're Badooing, you're usually fine. You cannot, you know, the items don't matter that much. Like you said, the Duraludon does just get the KO on the Badoo early on, and if your board just a bunch of one prizers, you don't care. If they stalled you out of items for a turn, if they don't really have like a super powerful option to take advantage of on the next turn. And we see
Um,
that about the second deck as well. I feel like doesn't care. Maybe cares a little bit more about Badoo, but definitely not a ton. And it was Ancient Box that did get second place here with the Brilliant Blender. So there's a little bit of a difference, or a little bit of a change up from what we're usually seeing. I feel like.
yeah, and interesting to see the Great Tusk is the inclusion here, not messing with Koraidon at all. It's just the 4 Great Tusk. Maybe you
Yep.
get in a sneaky surprise mill at the end of the game, your opponent's not thinking about it. Or honestly, sometimes like if you just start that thing, I played a version of this deck for a while that was pretty similar to this. If you just start the Great Tusk, sometimes if you just like while you're setting up and discarding ancient cards, you just start milling your opponent and being annoying. Like you can get rid of resources that would be really nice and force them to deal with it, right?
Yeah, you can always just be aggressive with it and just start milling them. There might even be a matchup where you just solo Great Tusk. I know some people were trying that out as a way to beat Reggie Drago at some point. Was
Yeah.
just like start Great Tuscan, always be Great Tuscan. But I don't know if it's quite enough. The Brilliant Bender does seem pretty powerful in the deck as well. Like the most aggressive way to just get ancient cards into the discard pile. Secret Box is like a pretty good mix of like discarding cards plus getting some setup stuff. But Brilliant Blender thinning out your deck by like 5 dead cards is also just like pretty good for like when you go to play your Pokegear, right? Or draw cards with concealed cards. There's like 5 less cards you could draw into and out of your deck. It's a pretty big, it's a pretty big percentage of your deck, right? 5 cards is quite a bit. So um, yeah, I'm still not a huge fan of Ancient Box personally, but moving forward, maybe there's a little bit more life for it. We'll see. Maybe Brilliant Blender also makes a pretty big difference with the deck as well. I've not played the deck with Brilliant Blender, but
It does also play the Monkey Dory,
yeah,
which is a pretty interesting inclusion to see here.
yeah. Just for the Dragapult matchup, like I mentioned, everyone was teching for Dragapult. Like literally, it felt like every deck had a card for Dragapult in it. So we can go down to the the next deck is Dragapult.
We got a pair of Badoo here.
There's a pair of Badoo. Yeah, a lot of them did play double Badoo, and then a lot of them, if not all of them, had Lance. Um,
Yeah, we're seeing Lance on the come up for the second time on TCG Player, like in the secondary market. I don't know if you had seen any of that at all. Where it was a while ago. It was like when Dragapult first got revealed,
Yeah.
Lance went through this like buyout phase. Yeah, I'll show the the chart here. It went through this buyout phase. A bulk full art card, just a couple bucks, shoots up to a 15 plus dollar card. And then of course Dragapult comes out, nobody plays it at all. It totally tanks down back to low bulk price. And then all of a sudden, we're seeing a little bit of an uptick. You can
Not
get one
too
for
much.
2.99 right now, which is pretty cheap, $4, something like that, $5, but that's like a pretty big increase from where it was last
This is
week.
definitely a fool me twice situation, I feel like, as we don't see as big of a spike. But no, it does seem like Lance is probably decent. It won't be decent for very long because rotation will be coming up. Well, for us, not that quickly. But yeah, for Japan, rotation's coming in 3 weeks or something like that. So it's coming up pretty quickly for them. 4 weeks. But yeah, the Lance things have slowed down a little bit. And this is what I was we were talking about, like the Brock scouting and Clavel. Lance is a card that for the first potentially like 3 turns of the game, it's like a decent play, right? So that's why playing something like Lance is like a decent supporter, especially in like a slower format where people are slowing stuff down with Badoo and stuff like that. A big standout for me as well with these Dragapult decks is, well, if you're attacking with Badoo, it kind of makes sense to not play Rotom, but it feels weird to like not play Luminion and force Sealstone still, which we did see some players playing that. But like you look at this list, like you have 4 Arven in here, but you do just have a lot of supporters in here, right? The Arven to initially get going is still nice, but then you can fall back on your Lances and your Ionos, I guess, after that.
Yeah, and of course, like Sparkling Crystal, a tool card, very important to grab. Evolution early in the game, right? So it's like, yeah, it's still very strong for
Yeah.
sure.
And you see how
Let's,
comfortable I was gonna say you see how comfortable how they are with like playing the game super slow because there's no energy acceleration in that list.
yeah,
Um, Whereas in this list we see the Crispin and we see Luminian and the Force Sealstone from
yeah,
Haru.
triple Lance as well here in this list from Haru. The Crispin, another Energy Excel option. Haru also did have the Luminion Force Sealstone, like you mentioned, and then one more list here. Again, Luminion Force Sealstone being included here has the Temple of Sinnoh. Was ready for the Lugias, which did end up swarming top cut here.
Yeah, only one Badoo. And I feel like also having a counter stadium for the jamming towers that actually popped up, maybe that was like a little bit unexpected of a inclusion in the numbers that it kind of showed up in like the Archaladon decks was the jamming
Yeah.
towers. Or maybe it's like a matchup you kind of give up on as Dragon Ball because it is so tough. You're like, I'm not gonna tech for Archaladon.
We do have another Dragapult deck, sort of. It is a Dragapult deck, but it's Dragapult Golden Go. What the heck is going on here, Azul?
So I've heard about this deck before this tournament happened. Either they were playing it in city leagues in Japan or something like that. I don't know. I don't know, man. That's what I said when I saw it and I was talking. I don't know. It's a deck. Maybe it's your
It's
way to beat Archaladon. You can 1-hit KO them
People are taking the
all the time.
Dragapult Thorns and applying new options to it here.
Yeah, I have no thoughts on this. It could be good. I'm not saying it's definitely bad. It could be good, but it's too much. It's too much to think about. It's too much.
And the other most popular deck in cut, so I guess technically it's Dragapult with four, right? Three and a
Yeah,
half if you count the Dragapult Golden Go deck. It is still a Dragapult deck, right?
yeah,
All these decks, like Dragapult Iron Thorns, is still a Dragapult deck.
yeah.
Um,
Well, how are we enabling it best?
Dragapult, yeah, Dragapult is just like arguably the best attacker in the game. Charizard EX is maybe second, right? Like just looking at the sheer power, what the card does for a card, right?
Yeah,
Um, and that's why like Regidrago is so good, is because it uses Dragapult the best of all the ways you could use Dragapult. Um, but now, so it's that's why we're seeing like people experiment with this like Golden Go and uh Iron Thorns and stuff like that because they're just trying to find better ways to enable Dragapult. But the other most popular deck in Top Cut was actually Lugia. What do you make of that?
I mean, it makes sense. There's like if there's less focus on Lugia, it becomes just like a better play, less Sinnohs, less bad matchups. I mean, Guardia was pretty prevalent, which is generally a unfavorable matchup. Got a cool new card in the Regigigas, which is definitely just a really good card. 100 damage plus 230 more damage if the active Pokemon is a Terra Pokemon that one KOs Charizard, Dragapult, every Terra Pokemon that's relevant. It KO. Is there any Terra Pokemon that survives the Regigigas? I don't know.
Tyranitar EX, bro.
All right, it's Tyrantar's time. But yeah, Lugia got some cool new tech. We see a couple different ways that people are playing it. The first list we looked at had Chinchinos. This one has no Chinchinos. It's all basics. Double basic lightning, double iron hands, double Regigigas. Also a Drapion in there, so you actually have a way to one hit KO Gardevoir. So Drapion is back. We've seen that before at NAIC last year. People were playing Drapion in some Lugia builds.
And then this one has a thin Chinchino here, just the 1/1. Does
Yeah.
have the Regigigas, has the Weird Ear as another big hitter.
I think that'll be how you build Lugia from now on. There'll be like a sliding scale of 0 Chinchino to a 2-2 Chinchino, depending on the meta. Like if the meta is more
Yeah, this is pretty
Archaludon
similar to,
based,
like, Rahul's list, right? Because that's what he's been doing is the 1/1 Chinchino plus Weird Ear.
yeah. If there's more Archaludon in the meta, you want more Chinchinos. If there's less to like no Archaludon, you want more Regigigas, just more basic focused. So it'll just be like a sliding scale of 0 Chinchinos to 2-2 Chinchino, depending on the meta. I feel like.
And then let's take a look at some of the other decks here. We've got a couple of Cerulege in Cup. Both of them were Palkia builds.
Yeah, and this is once again where I look. There's a 3-2 Cerulege, a 1-2 Palkia, which I don't hate because they have heavy ball, so like it mitigates your prize factor. They got the Monkey Dory in there. Like I said, everyone was teching for Dragapult. Everyone had something, and then the secret box. I think we saw this player on stream. It was really funny. They played secret box, and they got like a nest ball. It was like the,
For,
the
like,
the value from
Squawkabilly.
I don't even remember what it was, but they played secret box and they got one card. It was like nest ball for Palkia V or something. The potential value for secret box in this deck is feels pretty low though. I don't know. The secret box feels a little off to be honest, but it was super funny. It was so funny.
And the other one here does play the Prime Catcher.
Yeah, also the lack of Briar in the other list is Briar has this is the deck that has felt like Briar is the best in of decks that I played since Briar has been out. Like I use Briar more often in Cerulege decks than any other deck I've ever played Briar in. But yeah, this one's got the jamming towers, prime catcher, and yeah, the Briar in there as well. And yeah, like you said, Palkia builds. They want that little bit more of and none of the Dragapult decks were playing Manaphy. So like yeah, I guess you just kind of get away with it. This feels like almost like the Charizard, what we're going through with Charizard right now, where Charizards refuse to play Manaphy, and decks are definitely do take advantage of that.
Yep.
Maybe Dragapult's going to be the exact same thing next format. People are just going to refuse to play Manaphy, and Palkia is going to be in everything.
We do have a couple Miraidon in cut here. This one kind of interesting with the Minior Tech.
Yeah.
Also, one of Judge is a little disruption option.
The Judge feels weird with no Luminion, and then we see
Or
it is like a
Secret Box.
yeah, Area Zero without Secret Box feels tough, but it is a research build, so we are seeing more cards with this build. And this is that build was played by Akira, and Akira actually won the Champions League with Miraidon last year,
Yeah.
and got
Right
top
after
64
Dragapult
worlds.
came out.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so sticking with the Miraidon for a little while there. It looks like skipped it for worlds. Played Regidrago at worlds. Can't really fault him for that. Although Miraidon ended up being a pretty good play. It seems like. Um,
Can't fault it. Yep. And then
yeah.
we do have another Miraidon here. This one looks a little bit more straightforward. The 4 boss, 4 Arvin only supporters has the Secret Box. Much more traditional build to what we're used to
Yeah,
seeing here.
this is literally like 2 cards different than the list Landon used to win Sacramento. It's like the stretcher and the second Squawkabilly.
Yeah.
That's it. I think are both lightning energy, and that literally might be the only differences. There's 2 Force Seal Stone. I don't know if Landon played 2 or 1 Force Seal Stone, but yeah, this is what we've been used to as far as Maraudon builds go.
And then just a couple other decks here to talk about. We've got the Gardevoir. We talked about it a little bit. This was a call bell build with the Precious Trolley. So you're going second. You're call belling for Arvin. Your Precious Trolley filling your bench. Going from there.
Yeah, there's not only 4 Caldwell, there's also 2 Pokegears as well. We are not whiffing out here. None of the other Gardevoir builds were like this as well. All of them were a little bit slower. Like
what's
what we pulled up Fabian's build. They were like all like the Fabian
what's
build
the
there.
math here with the 4 call bell versus 4 Pokegear? Like, should
I
it
don't
be
know.
4 Pokegear, 2 call bell?
You
You
wish. I mean,
know,
you're just trying to get set up. If you set up, you win. Theoretically, I don't know. It feels really weird to play this build of Guardy in this format as well because it feels like everyone's choosing second. Besides, like I just not 100% sure. Like Archaludon. Actually, when you do the math, like Lugia and Archaludon, probably are going first most of the time.
yeah,
But the Miraidons and even the Dragapults are potentially going second. Like if I'm playing Dragapult, I don't think I feel super comfortable picking first, blind first. I think I almost want blind second, just Badoo them. Set up Badoo. This Guardian deck is obviously picking second.
yeah,
And in best of one, there is like a little bit more value to playing a list like this, I guess, because your opponent can't adjust, right? They can't be like, okay, well, game 2, now I'm gonna pick second because you're playing Call Bell Guardy.
yeah.
It's like, nope, you beat me. Good luck in your next round. And we see they were actually pretty teched for the jamming towers. They had three artisan in there, so they were prepared for the jamming towers. It seems like for sure.
And then we've got one last list here. Of course, Charizard's got to make its way in there. And they do have their own tech for Badoo. They've got thick stage 2 lines, the 2/2/2 Pidgeot, the 3/2/3 Charizard, and of course, using the Grand Tree as their A spec.
I think there are some standouts with this list as well when I like went back and reviewed it. No TM Evo, despite the thick evolution lines. It is kind of hard to pull off turn one all pretty consistently with only 5 fire. And then also no Defiance Band.
Yeah, 4 Arvin, 1 Tool feels like
Yeah.
so low value.
Yeah, and I think the lack of Defiance Band did come up in one of the games. I think we saw this player play on stream, and I was like talking as if Defiance Band was in their deck because I just kind of assumed, but it turns out no Defiance Band. Also, only 3 candy, so your potential for like a more explosive candy combo is like way less likely. But I guess you can lean on Charmeleons as your ways to get to chart your later Charizards, but still, even then, it feels really just trying to tech for Badoo, right? That's what it is. Also, I guess like another shout out here. The Charmanders are sticking with the non-Badoo killers, the non-heat tackle Charmanders.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of interesting. I mean, yeah, they probably just want to get up into the with the grand tree as fast as possible. But there's no good way to find the grand tree here, which is also kind of
It's
interesting.
or a
And
seal
that
stone. That's
it's
it.
kind of one of the problems with grand tree. It is a really powerful card, but the really like only good consistent way to find it is Horus's tenacity, using your supporter for turn to go
I
grab
mean,
the grand tree.
I think 4 seal stone's pretty reasonable, right? You either Lumini in for Arvin or you put Arvin after you Rotom. Like that's pretty reasonable to get your Grand Tree that way,
Sure.
right? That is like a 2 for 1, right? Because you're getting the candy and the stage 2.
I think Grand Tree is a really powerful card, but the problem is as well is that there's so many stadiums in the format right now that
You get one use,
you
yeah.
get one use of it. Like if Grand Tree, if you like could win the stadium war early and like get in a slower past format that, where games are lasting 15 plus turns, Grand Tree would be like insane where you could like eventually win like a stadium war, right?
Yeah.
But it's an ace spec. It's a one of. It's just like really difficult to get. Like you get to use it the one time. I don't know.
Yeah. Honestly, things for Charizard seem pretty tough. You have to play like this nerfed build of the deck to deal with Badoo, and then even then you're unfavored against Dragapult, right? You've
Yeah.
always been unfavored against Dragapult. So you have to play this this janky nerfed build of Charizard to still be unfavored into the deck that's like most it seems like Dragapult gained the most from Badoo. Slowing down the game is what Dragapult has wanted and needed to really thrive. And we'll see you know, we'll see. There's still more of this format and meta to evolve. So maybe Dragapult isn't as dominant or clearly the best deck. Like it kind of seems, even though it didn't win this tournament in Japan, it seems like Dragapult is the deck that everyone's worrying about and teching for. So even if it's not the best deck by a lot, as soon as the techs come out and people are playing stuff like Archaludon with double Turo, Dragapult's maybe not the best play, but like in a vacuum, all things equal, it probably is the most powerful, neutrally powerful deck overall. With the addition of Badoo, so yeah, it seems like Charger will probably have a hard time moving forward. But yeah, Dragapult seems like the deck, but it's not without answers for sure. The deck, but not without answers.
Let's recap our predictions from a couple weeks ago. One of the things we guessed was how many Badoo would there be in top 16? I'll let you reveal to the people how this one went.
Oh, it was how many Badoo? Actually,
Oh,
was it
it
how
was
many
how many
decks?
Badoo, not how many
Yeah,
decks would play Badoo.
some did have two. Aha! I
How
think
many had two?
it was one or two with two.
So Azul
I guess there's
predicted
two with
11, which
two.
was just so grossly wrong, to be honest. Like just
Y-
so off. Like not even
You
close.
you predicted 5. Actually, the correct answer is 7.
There were
You thought
5 decks that played Badoo, but 2 of them did play 2 Badoo.
yeah, some of them double dipped, double dude. Um, yeah, not as many as I predicted 11. I was predicting 11 with the idea of like some decks would play multiple as well.
Of course, of course.
But yeah, the correct answer is 7. So Chip almost got away with the prediction dub, not this time around. Um,
Next one here. I don't know that either of us can really take this one. I mean, you were definitely a little closer. We said
yeah.
pick a deck to win. Azul chose Gardevoir. I chose Raging Bolts. And the actual answer was Archaludon. How would either of us have predicted this?
Well, I think honestly, now I didn't think about this in the moment. Thinking about it now, it's like Raging Ball's probably not very good with Badoo running around. To be honest, like slowing it down. Actually, like actually watching how many players brought we saw a decent amount of Golden Go games on the stream, and I was like, "This deck just gets bodied by Badoo." But they all played Lana's Aid as, like, a way to recover energy that wasn't item based. So they were teching for Badoo in their Golden Go deck, because otherwise you just lose. Like, you go for one big one-hit KO on a Dragapult, and they just item lock you the rest of the game, and you deck out first probably, right? Um,
All you gotta do is keep an energy around.
yeah, but then they recover the Badoo again. They bring up a different Golden Go, and then you need 2 energy.
Hmm.
You just lose to Badoo Chain without Lana, but even with Lana's Aid, I think you could still just lose to a Badoo Chain, to be honest.
I
Um,
think that would be pretty tough to do, but
um, yeah, yeah, Rating Ball was probably a pretty bad guess, to be honest, like, thinking back on it, because Badoo definitely hurts that deck a lot, not just in, like, the early game potential setup, but also, like, mid game, late game as, like, a way to, like, slow the game down.
sure, sure, sure.
Um But yeah, I was wrong as well. Gardevoir was definitely a pretty prevalent deck, but was not as successful as the Archaladon, which ended up taking it all down. Which once again, I was actually going to highlight this again as we were going to close this out. But yeah, go watch the finals match. It is the craziest game of Pokemon I think I've ever seen. I'd have to like think about all the other games of Pokemon I've ever watched, but it's probably the craziest game of Pokemon I've ever seen. So you should go watch it.
Next one, most played A spec in top 16. Azul predicted the unfair stamp. I predicted the secret box.
I
Now
think
there
you were
were
closer.
there were two secret box.
Yeah, there were two.
There was only one unfair stamp, but the decks that had there was so many different A specs in top 16. I
A
think
lot.
like 8 different A specs in top 16, something like that. And the correct answer was Sparkling Crystal and Legacy Energy tied for first with 3 apiece.
Yeah.
So,
Was there only
yeah,
one Prime Catcher? No, there had to be like two Prime Catcher. Wait, was there one?
I think there was 2 prime catchers. Uh
The Miraidons,
one of the Miraidons
one of
and
the
then
Archaladons.
the Archaladon, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But yeah, pretty diverse in the
No,
A
no,
spec
no. One of the
category.
Miraidons, one of the what's this thing called?
Zero Edge.
Edge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. But yeah, pretty diverse uh A specs across the board. What you mentioned before we started recording was just like in comparison to like A specs the first time around, where it was like, are you playing computer search or dowsing machine? Or like do you just want to be different and you have like a gold potion in your deck?
Yeah.
Congrats.
It was like
Um
90% computer search, 9% dowsing machine, 1% you just felt like being cool, or you couldn't afford a computer search.
Or you were playing Frisian Genesect, which was fair to run G boosted. G boosted
Sure,
was
sure,
pretty
sure,
good.
sure, sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's basically just those. Wasn't many options. There was not many options. But yeah, seeing it this time around, I think they did a really good job with the A specs. Like, I mean, there's a lot more to play out of the A specs. Will we actually have a format where it's only some of the A specs, but some of them rotated, or are they all in the same
I think
block?
they're all in the same block.
Okay, so they'll all rotate at the same time.
Let's see. Secret Box has an H. What does Prime Catcher have?
It's one of the first.
It was yeah, Prime Catcher has an
They're
H.
all
What's one of
H,
the
right?
recent? Grand Tree.
Or one.
Grand Tree has an H. Yeah, so they're all in the
Yeah, they should all
same.
be H. Okay. Yeah, but they still have what, 2 more years of this rotation year, then another year. Yeah. So they all survived the next rotation, 2 rotations. So it'll be definitely interesting to see how the aspects play out from here. But so far it feels pretty diverse. It seems like they did a really good job with them. Nothing feels like it would just be like if it just feels unfun, right? Like you're playing computer search for the millionth time, or I guess in this case it would have been worse, honestly, if Prime Catcher was on the level that computer search was, because computer search is like, all right, everyone has like a get
Vanilla
it.
consistency
Yeah,
card.
but if
Yeah.
the prime catcher would have been annoying. It's like, "Oh, I lost the prime catcher again." They found the prime catcher early again, but yeah, definitely has felt pretty cool so far. Like, the setup ones are actually more powerful than they seemed.
And then last prediction was, will a dedicated Badoo counter make top 8? We both said yes, but we're gonna go with no as the actual result here. We were looking for things like, the Cacnea or,
Yeah, something like that.
Rocky Helmet, like something cheesy
Elekid.
like that. But people respected Badoo a lot, obviously, in their deck building here in Top Cut. The Lances and the Dragapult, right? The Archaladon, right? Just Duraludon being able to naturally knock it out. But those aren't like hard dedicated counters. Just I don't know. Maybe Lance is technically a dedicated counter just for Badoo. Because would anyone be playing Lance if Badoo wasn't a part of the format?
Uh,
Maybe,
no.
maybe Lance is a dedicated counter.
No, I don't think so. Like, people just in how they build their decks for certain matchups, I don't think it quite counts. We needed, like, an Elekid or something like that.
Elekid and
We did
Miraidon,
not
yeah.
see we did not see the Elekid. So, uh, Yeah, Badoo's thriving for sure. Definitely having the impact. Yeah, there's a lot of decks that aren't running it though as well. The Miraidons, the Archaludons, the Lugias. I don't really want to call Ancient Box a deck quite yet. Charizard wasn't really playing it, but Guardian Dragapult were the big ones that were playing it for sure. Seralege as well, I guess.
Well, Zul, I think this is our longest episode ever to
Is
start
it?
off the year of 2025. How we feel about that?
It's probably a good. We had 2 weeks. That's good. That's probably a good thing. We didn't think there was that much to talk about this week, but we were off for 2 weeks, so it's a good
Yeah.
thing that there was that much more stuff to talk about for sure.
Anything else you want to say to the people before we get to our bonus episode?
Nice. Just appreciate y'all sticking around, listening to us for another year. I mean, it be started at the beginning of the year when we started the thing, but yeah, appreciate y'all sticking with us for another year, and hopefully, 2025 is just as good.
Yeah, appreciate the support, guys. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave us a like, a review, rating, subscribe. All those things help us out a ton. We hope everyone had a great 2024 and is looking forward to an even better future here in the new year of 2025. Happy New Year from us as well, by the way, because like when this is being like we're recording on New Year's Eve, but when people are hearing this, it'll be the new year. So happy New Year from us to you. Be sure to stay up to date with us. The best place to follow us is over on X. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie, Azul at Azul_GG. You can follow the podcast at uncommon_energy.
Yep, appreciate the support as always. Catch y'all next week, Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, and call over a judge. Don't forget to call over a judge if something comes up. We gotta like yeah, we need a little bit of on both sides. The tournament organizers, the judges, they got to be more harsh, more aggressive with just like calling out the BS. But as the players, for them to call out the BS, we have to present the BS. So it's a little bit of yeah, both
Call
sides on
over
that.
your judge and say, yes, I've got some BS for you.
Yeah, but yeah, let's go ahead. Let's jump over to that bonus episode.